Steven, my friend, you're back on the show. Um, I feel like it's been a minute. No, I think you were on a few weeks ago for the Lindor trade and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. But how you doing?
Good, Trainer. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. You broke some big news though a few weeks ago. I don't think you shared it on the podcast though.
Yeah, I've not. Wife and I are expecting twins.
Dude, I thought you were joking when you said twins. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, no, there's no. It's real. It's happening.
Is it twin girls, twin boys? No
twin
idea.
Boys.
Twin boys. How about that?
Boys. Due sometime in August.
That sounds miserable.
It's fun.
It's gonna be fun. Have you thought about names?
Yeah, I think we're pretty set on Peter and Lucas for their first names. We're still working out middle names for them, but I think we're pretty set on Peter and Lucas.
Biblical? At least one of those is. I'm not sure about Lucas.
Good, strong names. Biblical.
Hey, at least you're not doing. I feel like too many parents with twins, they give them like similar names, like Taylor and Tyler. You know?
We thought about that.
I don't like that, honestly.
If it was a boy and a girl,
yeah.
We thought about doing something not like super, but we were talking about like Lucas and Louise for a boy and a girl. But
I can live with that.
That's not happening. So yeah, we decided against it. There's a pretty decent chance that they're not going to be identical; that they'll be fraternal twins. So that'll help.
But it's still, well, I guess you wouldn't know unless, I don't know, can you tell if it's identical or fraternal until they're born, I guess?
They can't say, apparently they can't say with like absolute certainty, but they have like signs that they can look at and say, oh, this is happening. There's a good chance that they're not identical.
And that's what they're telling you guys?
Whatever.
Well, that's going to be fun come August. Unfortunately, though, come August, that's when baseball season is going to be cranked up. I can't really use you once we get into the dog days of August, September. Maybe when October rolls around, you got your feet underneath you by then. But
yeah, I'm sure it'll be okay. For an hour or so.
All right, so let's go ahead. Let's talk some Marvel first. We both watched the recent episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier before we got on this podcast. What did you think?
So,
well, hold on. Before we get into that, let's get into WandaVision first. That one wrapped up.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet.
We have not. What did you think of WandaVision?
I really liked it. Sarah and I both watched it, and we both really liked it. It was different, it was. I like different. Obviously, I love all the Marvel stuff. The comic booky. Kind of cheesy action stuff that they do that they've actually kind of gone away from toward the end of the whatever phase it was that ended in Endgame. 4, yeah.
Phase 3. 3.
Same shit.
We're in phase 4 right now.
Are we? Gotcha. But yeah, it was just the style of WandaVision was so different with the sitcom tropes and the way kind of the way it was shot and produced, things like that. It was different, but I really liked it. I mean, it delved into two characters that we didn't know a whole lot about. We knew some. There was some stuff here and there about them. Obviously, the big storyline in Infinity War with those two, but nothing really, major deep dives. So I really liked it. I think it sets up well for whatever they decide.
It was at least 2 shows, maybe 3, or movies too, I guess.
Yeah.
It definitely set up, I feel like, Doctor Strange 2, Captain Marvel 2. I think even Miss Marvel, maybe, the soon-to-be TV show.
Well, you could see it as like a like the Secret Invasion show that they're doing with Sam Jackson.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, at the very end.
there are some elements of that. Yeah, but I think for it being the first thing that they did that was Disney Plus streaming TV type stuff, I thought it was really really good.
I thought it was all right. I like Marvel for the action and the bad guys and good guys, and there was a little bit of that in WandaVision. For the most part, though, like you said, it was more about character. I wouldn't say development because these characters have kind of been developed. I guess character background. We know a little bit about Wanda, Scarlet Witch. We don't know much about her though. And Vision died in Infinity War. They brought him back. It just it started off weird. Then it made sense a little bit. Then it got weird again. And then it was just all right. I did like that it was different. It definitely tried to, I wouldn't say push the envelope.
They went out on a bit of a limb.
Yeah. And I liked it to an extent.
Some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. I thought Catherine Hahn's character as Agatha Harkness, and I thought she was great. I really enjoyed.
So did you see that coming? That was kind of the twist. Was that the nosy neighbor ended up being the villain?
Yes and no. I don't know. I read too much on the internet, so there was some theories out there that kind of hinted at it. But I don't. I'm not saying that I absolutely 100% saw it.
I wouldn't say the same thing either, but there was just something off from the trailers, even to when the character was announced, to the trailers, the start of the show. I'm just like, something's weird about this character. And based off the trailers, I had a feeling this could be the villain. And sure enough, it was revealed that she was. And I was kind of like, well, I wouldn't say I called it, but I did kind of see it coming.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, it was a good first attempt at kind of what they're doing. And now they've kind of gone another direction, I feel like, with Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, let's get into that. So Falcon and Winter Soldier, I feel like, is your typical superhero kind of action drama. So far. I mean, we're only 2 episodes. We're a third of the way in to this miniseries. I actually, even though it was uneventful, if you watched the first episode, you'd say nothing happened. It was pretty boring. I loved it. I thought it was setting up, these giving you more insight into Winter Soldier and Falcon, their backstories, their, how they were brought up. I thought it was building up great for something 5 episodes, later it would be really good. But I thought this week's episode took 5 steps back. I did not care for this week's episode.
This week's episode, I just finished it. I turned it off and got on the computer. So processing it yet. But I think they're setting up a kind of a quasi struggle or conflict or something like that with this new Captain America, U.S. agent, whatever you want to call him. Obviously not like the big bad, that's. Yeah,
I feel like some people thought he was going to be this villain, but if you look at the comics, he's not a villain. I mean, he's actually ranked. I think IGN ranked him as the top, 29th of the top 50 Avengers. Obviously, Captain America or Steve Rogers' version is going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5, and then U.S. Agent was around 29. So he's clearly highly thought of.
Yeah, he's a second tier Marvel character. The way they introduced him, I thought was interesting. Everybody going in is assuming that this is going to be about how Sam or the Falcon or Bucky and the Winter Soldier, how they're going to kind of step up and assume the mantle of Captain America. And right off the bat, episode 1, Sam says, I can't do this. I don't want to. I don't think, whatever he said in the first episode, symbols mean something. It's only because of the men and women who carry them or whatever. And so that was a little bit of averting of expectations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I expected this to be Falcon and Winter Soldier teaming up, which basically is what's happening. But them, one, likely Falcon because he was the one who Steve gave the shield to at the end of Endgame, being Falcon with the shield. That's what I expected the show to be, and that's not it at all. Both of these guys, I don't know about Bucky if he doesn't want to take up the mantle of Captain America. I think it's setting up that he actually did. I thought when they went into that therapy session, he was going to say, I deserve the shield, and he didn't. I still think he could say that at some point, but I think he's going to be a little butthurt. He gave it to Sam, and then Sam gave it to the government. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think I could see a storyline where, like I said, this mini conflict, disagreement, argument, whatever you want to call it, between Sam and Bucky and John Walker and
Which, by the way, I will say this: John Walker, that is like the perfect American name.
Great name.
John, is already great. Only thing better would be if his last name was Smith. But Walker's just as good.
Oh yeah.
So I will say this. I hope I end up liking this U.S. agent guy, this John Walker guy. As of right now, I think he's a little annoying.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing that on purpose because we're supposed to be on Buck's and Sam's side. We're not supposed to like this guy originally because he's Captain America, but he's not really Captain America. The government, as usual, is shoving something down our throats, and we don't like it.
Of course.
I'm sure, and I said it, I posted a recap video on my Twitter, but by the end of this miniseries, I think it's going to be kumbaya. Okay, we're all friends now. And it's going to end with John Walker saying, I'm not going to be Captain America anymore. Only one dude's Captain America. I'll be U.S. agent now.
Yeah. I can see that. They're really doing I think a pretty good job so far of, like I said, setting up expectations of certain, like I said, conflicts, arguments that have a lot of different outcomes that you could see going a lot of different ways. So it's not like everybody knows what's coming, and they did that really well with WandaVision too. And I think this experiment that's happening with streaming services and all these companies releasing stuff to streaming services, I think Marvel and Disney obviously are in the forefront of that, and have got the template down pat.
I hate the female villain. I don't buy this girl. She looks like a teenager. I don't buy her as a villain.
No,
I don't. I'm not misogynist. I'm not sexist. A woman can be a villain. I've seen it before. If they're good, I'd have no problem admitting it. This girl is not a villain. For now, I could be wrong, but for now, I just see her as a scared kid who's mad at the world.
Yeah, a girl with a cause that she's trying to hammer down everybody's throat. I could see that. They did introduce who I think is going to be like the big bad villain of this season, and that's Helmut Zemo from Civil War.
I think they are setting him up later.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we'll, if not, come back to visit him next episode.
Next episode, they're going to go see him.
Yeah.
And I think he'll help them out. I thought once they introduced the villains, I was like, okay, either Zemo is going to be leading this group, which the leader in the first episode didn't even look like the girl in the second episode, but I think it was. I was like, that doesn't look like Zemo. So he must be like I wouldn't say anti-hero, but he's going to help them to an extent this season, or this mini-series. Then I think it'll end with him breaking out of that facility that he's in, and then it'll be like a movie or another series.
Yeah,
Falcon and Winter Soldier teaming up again to stop him.
Could be. They're like I said, it's early. This is a shorter series, but it's still we've got 4 episodes left, and there's a ton of different directions they could take this thing in, and it'll be exciting to watch.
Yeah. So that's all the Marvel talk we really have. Loki doesn't come out until June, and Black Widow got pushed back till again. So let's get into why you're really here, which is baseball talk. We're filming this on a Friday, so really we have a week until opening day, or less than a week. Problem is, I'm going to be out of town on Wednesday. I'm heading down to Texas to scout some places to live, and I don't want to just. I'm working. I'm not working from home on Monday. Monday's my last day with the job I have right now, so I'm going to go into the office and hand them my laptop, clean up my desk and everything. Tuesday I'll probably be busy packing and planning whatever. Then Wednesday I leave. So I just figured we go ahead and get this out of the way now.
Yeah.
So baseball talk now. How do we usually do this? Do we go by? Yeah, we do it.
Divisions, awards, just kind of.
So let's start alphabetical order. Let's start with the American League AL MVP. I'll go ahead and say, ever since I saw a graphic that showed Mike Trout, like kind of by the years, ever since he entered the league in 2011, excluding his first two, I think it was his first two seasons, or was he a rookie in 2012? I think it was 2012.
2012, I believe, was rookie.
So 2012. I think his first 2 years he didn't win MVP, but every year after that, it's been like 2014 MVP, 2016 MVP. I don't think that's right. I think it was 2013 because now we're in an odd number year. Basically, it's setting up where he should be MVP this year because he's kind of gone back and forth throughout his career, winning MVP every other year.
I don't remember who won MVP last year. Was it Jose Abreu?
Was it Jose Abreu? That doesn't seem right.
Maybe last year. Anyway,
let's see. I know Mookie Betts won in the NL. He did win AL MVP, Jose Abreu, in 2020. Good for him.
We've been talking about him for years, and
I mean, he's always been good. Okay, let me see Mike Trout. So Mike Trout's won the AL MVP 3 times. 14, 16, 19, 2019. So I was wrong. It's not every other year, but it's damn close. Ever since he entered the league. Or entered baseball.
At one point, there was a trend of 5 or 6 years where he was either first or second.
Yeah. And, I mean, he's the definition of – his numbers really aren't – I wouldn't call eye-popping. I mean, he's like a career – 300 hitter, but he's so consistent. He's going to hit around 300. He's going to hit 40 home runs, be a great player in the field. He's just the definition of consistency. Great, consistent.
He's the best player. He's the best player on the planet, and I don't think it's particularly close. And it sucks because he is just toiling away on a team that doesn't understand, seemingly, how to market that they have the best baseball player on the planet Earth. And I hate, for baseball's sake, I hate that he's not in a place like Boston or New York or Chicago, Texas, Atlanta, St. Louis, just because of what he lost.
Maybe he doesn't want the spotlight, which I would totally get. But you're in freaking LA, like the entertainment capital, really, of the world. How is your face not out there? And I know the Angels are basically second tier; they're the second team in the city, but still, like he's better than Mookie Betts. He's better, really, than anyone on the Dodgers. But I know the Dodgers are the better team. But how do you not get his name out there? Just his face, show his face out in LA, promote him.
I think he's a real quiet guy. He's not a big boisterous personality. I think that plays into it. But my God, I mean, he's just so special on a baseball field. I just hate that he's not. They're obviously baseball fans like you and me and people that follow the game know that without a doubt and know how great he is and what he can do on a baseball field. But your average casual baseball fan, I don't really know if they know just how good Mike Trout is, just how important he is, just how just freakishly talented he is. I mean, I don't, and that's why I hate that like I said, that's why I hate that he's kind of toiling away on a team that doesn't seem to be actively trying to make a winner. And
I feel like they're trying. I just don't think the front office knows what they're doing.
No, there's a whole other argument to be made about. I believe it's the Lorias are the owners, and then the GM, whose name is slipping my mind, but just not not what you want to see when they have, I mean, a generational type talent. I mean, that name, that moniker kind of gets thrown around a lot these days, seemingly, but really Mike Trout is the definition of that. I mean, he can do all 5 facets of the game, probably more of them.
By the way, speaking of the Angels, did I see that Albert Pujols is retiring after this year, or was that just a rumor?
That was a rumor that was going around. His contract is up at the end of the year.
Yeah. So it would make sense, but yeah.
It would make sense. There was also a rumor that went around, particularly in St. Louis circles, that he would like to play another year with Yachty. Wherever Yachty plays, he would like to play a year with Yachty and retire with him.
Well, Molina just signed an extension in St. Louis, I believe.
Yeah, we signed him to a 1-year deal. He was technically a free agent. There was never really any chance of him going anywhere else. Him and Waino both. It took a while to get them signed. Yachty mostly because he wanted to play in the Caribbean World Series for Team Puerto Rico. So we let him do that, and it was just easier for him to do it as a free agent in the big leagues. So we let him get through with that, and then inked him to that deal. I believe it was 1 year for, I want to say like 8, maybe 10 million with a bunch of bonus incentives and stuff.
Speaking of that, when's the next World Baseball Classic? Was it supposed to be last year and I assume got canceled because of COVID?
Either supposed to be last year or supposed to be this year and got canceled. Because the last one was, or maybe
it was 2017. Yeah, it was supposed to be this year but got postponed because of COVID.
That's it.
All right. I was about to say, we should be due for one of those, and USA is the champs.
I do love the World Baseball Classic. It's so much fun to watch.
It is fun. So let's do some picks. AL MVP, who you got?
Oh boy, there's so many options. Like we always say, I don't like to go chalk, but it's so hard to pick against Mike Trout that I always do end up picking Mike Trout. So I always just say Mike Trout's going to win MVP, but here are some guys that could make a push. I think shortstop for Chicago, Tim Anderson, is primed for a really, really big year. The White Sox are probably the favorite in the Central. And
let's slow down there. We'll get to that.
Sorry, I think that he is a key cog in that and on that team, and I think he could really make a big, big splash. Obviously there's the usual suspects, the Aaron Judges, the Anthony Rendon is now in the AL. George Springer with Toronto, I think could make a splash. There's just a lot of the usual suspects, but at the end of the day, it's like I said, it's Mike Trout's award to lose if he feels like it.
Yeah, like I said, I couldn't have told you who I was gonna pick to be AL MVP. As we've said, I don't like to do chalk, but once I saw that graphic that pretty much said Mike Trout wins it every other year, and he's due to win it this year, I can't really go against that. So I went with Mike Trout. I don't like it. I feel like it's lazy, but I did. Same with Cy Young, though. I kind of went chalk with that, too. Who'd you go for Cy Young?
Oh, let's see. What did I pull up here? I had it and I lost it. No, that's not it. I think this is another one where it's real hard to.
I'm getting a refill, so don't be alarmed if I leave.
Yeah, you're good. I think it's real hard to bet against Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
Especially as he will be in the major media market and front and center of God and everything. it will just be that much more difficult to bet against him. But guys, there are some younger guys like I've talked about Lucas Giolito for a couple of years.
I think he was my pick last year. Started off strong. I think he started the year with like a no-hitter or
he threw a no-hitter
game
last year.
at one point.
One of the only no-hitters that was thrown last year. Shane Bieber could very easily go back-to-back.
He won it last year, yeah.
Yeah, I mean he is the next. Cleveland somehow just seems to keep bringing up these pitchers that toil and you don't hear from them much, and then they explode on the scene.
Yeah, if there's an organization that has really developed pitchers, I mean, I think it's the Cleveland Indians. Well, I'm sorry, they're not the Indians anymore. Not for long, anyway.
Yeah, but whatever they decide they want to be.
Cleveland Baseball Club, hopefully.
Cleveland Baseball Club. Yeah, that is what
before they choose
decide.
A real name. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is Trevor Bauer, Corey Kluber, Carlos Carrasco. There's another one I'm forgetting, I know, that were on those teams. And then now it's Shane Bieber, and I'm sure they got someone behind him. Clevenger was another guy. Given that they traded him. But yeah, so I went the same. If Garrett Cole is your pick, I too went with Garrett Cole. I mean, this is a guy who was supposed to be Cy Young winner last year. I don't remember if he got banged up, but he didn't quite have the year, I don't think anyway, that Yankees fans expected him to have, but it was still a very good year.
Last year was just such a weird year. Yeah. Even with the awards, they weren't even – I know for the Gold Gloves, at least, it was all metric-based. I don't know if it was the same with the MVPs and the Cy Youngs, but it was just a weird year. So, yeah, I mean, kind of bringing things back to level, I think going chalk with these awards is not a horrible idea.
So we've gone chalk twice now with these awards. Rookie of the Year, though, I don't think is one I went chalk, but I'm curious to see who you have because I do really like my pick.
Yeah. So my pick is probably chalk-ish. He exploded onto the scene in the postseason, but there's a caveat because
we definitely don't have the same guy then.
I believe he got into some trouble this offseason.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know if he got out of said trouble.
I don't know who you could be talking about.
My pick is Randy Arozarena.
Yes. He did get in trouble.
Tampa Bay Rays, who exploded onto the scene in the ALCS and the World Series, hit like 1,400 or something absolutely insane.
Didn't he break the record for postseason home runs? Gotta be.
It was either hit runs. It was one of the two. I can't remember which.
I thought he was also close to breaking David Freese's postseason RBI record. But I don't think he got there. I'm not sure he got there. I don't think he got
to RBIs. I do think he broke the record for – it was either hits or home runs. I'd have to look it up. I can't remember.
It had to have been home runs. Dude was on fire. Hit like 8 home runs in the ALCS and World Series.
You could not get him out.
That's a good pick. I think he's –
It looks like that he has been cleared of said trouble in Mexico.
Yeah, I think that – I mean, the Rays don't usually get a ton of stars down there. They like to develop from within. And they do a good job of it. But I think Arozarena is probably like a star about to burst in Tampa.
Yeah. They traded for Arozarena. He came up in the Cardinals organization. We traded him to Tampa in a deal last off season, I believe. That wasn't like a big splash deal, but he and one of the prospects that the Rays sent to us were kind of the headliners of that deal. And yeah, he's made full. He's taken his chance and run with it for sure. I mean, he's primed for a huge year if he can keep up what he did in the postseason.
So mine I think yours is chalk. Going by some of the odds that I saw, I think Arozarena leads for AL Rookie of the Year odds. Mine is a man who used to be with the New York Mets organization by the name of Jared Kelenic. I don't think anyone expected him to blossom as well as he did. I remember when the Mets drafted him, he was a high school prospect. They drafted him in the top 10. I don't even think he was a year in the Mets organization. They traded him to get Cano. Why am I blanking on his first name?
Robinson Cano.
Cano. I wanted to go with Robertson.
Cano trade.
Robinson Cano, yeah, and Edwin Diaz. They sent him to Seattle, and he has boomed in the Seattle farm system. Might start this year. I don't know, but he looks really good right now.
Yeah, he's really. Correct me. He plays center field.
Yeah, outfielder of some sort. I can't imagine he won't play this year.
No, the Mariners are in maybe not like a full blown rebuild, but they've got they don't currently have a general manager, but I think they're certainly not competing.
No.
So yeah, he's a name that I threw around. There were some other ones that I wasn't sure if, and every time I say this, I say I'm going to butcher his name, but Luis Robert.
I like Robert so much more.
Robert. I wasn't sure if he was. If his service time qualified him for the Rookie of the Year this year or not. I didn't want to go. I don't think
so. I don't remember seeing his name on the list of players, because he was near the top last year, and I remember picking him because I didn't really know any of the AL. I remember asking my brother, hey, who's going to win AL Rookie of the Year? And he said, name off the favorites. And I think Casey Mize might have been the favorite, and he said, it ain't going to be Casey Mize. And I kept going, and he was like, I don't like, no. And I got to Luis Robert, and he said, maybe right now I'd say he's probably the favorite. But I don't think he ended up winning it.
I think he did win AL Rookie of the Year last year. I have no idea,
honestly. It was
Kyle Lewis.
Who was he?
Mariners.
Really?
He plays for the Mariners. He's an outfielder. I think. Yeah, outfielder for the Mariners.
I had no idea. Well, Mariners. I know that Mariners have some good talent in their farm system right now.
They've got some good young players. Yeah, they're just. It's. They may be a next couple of years type team that we talk about, like we've always been talking about the White Sox.
Yep.
The Sox finally did make it to the postseason last year, but didn't really perform. I think we're bounced in 3 in the wild card round.
Yeah, I think I picked them to upset the A's because I think the A's were the 2 seed. I'm pretty sure I picked the White Sox to upset the A's in the opening round with the expanded playoffs.
Oh yeah.
All right, so AL East. Let's go by divisions now. AL East. Unlike in previous years, I do think this is a 3-team race. One team way ahead of the pack, which is the New York Yankees. Then you have 2 teams I think that are going to be fighting for that number 2 spot in Tampa and Toronto. And then Boston and Baltimore are clearly in rebuild mode. Boston, who knows? They got the money to be good next year, but likely not going to be good this year.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty clear. Like you said, the Yankees are far and away probably the best team in the division. I'm a little bit higher on the Blue Jays.
I am too.
Than a lot of people. I think they can make a push to compete for the division. They really, really went all in on free agency and trades and things like that. They really, really went all in to upgrade that team and build around that. They're really good young core that they have.
Yeah, they've done it right. So I think about this all the time, and it's a little different for football, but it's even more important in baseball. Like, you build, especially these smaller market guys, you don't build your team through free agency. You build through your homegrown talent, the guys that you draft and develop, and they've really done that. And you use free agency and trades to plug in pieces elsewhere that will help this young core come together. And they have done that beautifully. I mean, the young core is Kevin Biggio, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I couldn't even tell you the other two guys off the top of my head. Then they signed George Springer. They bring in Ryu from the I think it was Ryu, or maybe he's with the Twins now. They brought in someone good in the rotation. I don't remember who.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There we go. That's what I want. Let's pull up the. Nope, that's 2020. Let's pull up like the Blue Jays off season. Because
they brought in someone else. I can't remember who.
They kind of did, to an extent.
Steven Matz was one. They did bring in Ryu. I thought they did.
Yeah, I thought that was this year. I couldn't remember if it was this year or last year. But yeah,
I'm thinking of Kenta Maeda, who's with the Twins.
Okay. Maeda went to the Twins. But man, like you said, building that core around and with Guerrero and Kevin Biggio and Bo Bichette and there's another one that I'm missing, and then adding a bona fide superstar like George Springer to solidify the middle of your order and protect Vlad Guerrero Jr. Is going to pay off in spades for them. And then, like I said, adding proven arms like Steven Matz and Hyunjin Ryu to really shore up the rotation. And then it seems like now every team has horses coming out of the bullpen. So, having, I believe, did they get Kirby Yates?
They did. That was one of the names I saw.
Did he go to the Blue Jays?
Yeah. Then they traded for Robbie Ray last year, who's not a terrific, name, but a very, quality starting pitcher. I think he's a starter.
Serviceable. Yeah. Ray was a starter. He played for Arizona for a while. Pitched for Arizona. Yeah, I mean, it feels like they made all the right moves. They didn't just big game hunt and try to get the biggest names they could. Although they did probably get the biggest free agent name, it was a piece that they needed. It wasn't just, hey, this guy's available and we might consign him, and oh my God, we signed him. Now where is he going to play? We'll make a spot for him. It was more of, hey, we need a center fielder. That guy's the best center fielder on the market. Let's go get him, and they got him. Mm-hmm. So I think they did it, like you said, they did it the right way in terms of plugging in pieces that they needed. Like I said, just so happens that he's a superstar. The Blue Jays certainly can make a push. They have the talent to do it. I think the Rays are going to take a bit of a step back.
Yeah, so do
I. Trading away Blake Snell.
No, they didn't trade away Taillon. That was Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But Charlie Morton left. He's with Atlanta now. So some of those arms have left.
Their ace now is Glass now.
Yeah.
Who is very well could compete with Cy Young. That was a name that I didn't mention for the AL Cy Young, but I think they will take a bit of a step back, like I said. But they have the pedigree and the pieces to compete. Very obviously to compete for the postseason, especially in a weaker American League, as teams are kind of coming back a little bit, especially in the Central and the West, where there's obvious favorites, and then behind them, nobody really knows what to make of some of the teams. So, and then Boston, and like you said, Boston and Baltimore are in total rebuild. Boston doesn't have anybody to throw.
Boston's a wild card. We said it last year. Bit of a wild card. They still have some decent names on the roster. They brought back Alex Cora. Who knows? This team might rattle off 88 wins and shock everyone and get get a wild card spot, but I just don't see it happening.
They very well could. They have the money. If they feel like they can compete at the deadline, they can make a huge splash, trade for a Trevor Story or a Justin Turner or somebody who's in a contract year trying to make a name or trying to get another contract. They could, if they feel like they have pieces and they obviously have the money to do it. Bit of a wild card, but they just do not have any pitching.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of dudes that nobody's ever heard of.
Do they still have Chris Sale? Or did they trade him?
I believe Chris Sale retired.
Did he?
I might be making that up.
I thought David Price may have retired.
He's coming off of Tommy John. So I don't know if he is.
Now they traded David Price to the Dodgers. Yeah, he's with the Dodgers.
A long time ago. He sat out last year. He was pitching for the Dodgers in the 2019. If I remember right.
I thought he was with that Mookie Betts trade, but I guess not.
I guess he was in the Mookie Betts trade.
I thought he was, but I've seen the Red Sox and Dodgers make trades before.
He hasn't played for the Dodgers yet because he sat out last year. But yeah, he was in the Mookie Betts trade. But yeah, no, Sale is coming off of Tommy John. I don't believe he's slated to open the season. Goal remains for the Boston Red Sox ace to pitch at some point in 2021.
I wouldn't expect the Red Sox to be very good this year.
No, and then the Orioles are going to stink. Yeah. The Orioles, if they really felt like absolutely blowing it up, Trey Mancini is a good piece that they can trade and get a lot of controllable assets and good prospects. Because I believe he is under contract for a while. He's got a lot of team control left on his deal. So he would be a good piece if they felt like absolutely blowing it up. Again, that probably is the best way to put that. And then really making a run at it in 3 or 4 years. I'm trying to see what he's got left on his contract.
So it sounds like we're both
arbitration.
Sounds like we're both going with the Yankees to win this division.
Yeah. I think
the big thing with the Yankees, in my opinion, is like pitching has always been. We know they can hit. Injuries have always been a problem, but pitching has always been a weak spot for them. But this year is huge because Garrett Cole's. They got Garrett Cole. Luis Severino's coming back from Tommy John injury. They also signed Corey Kluber in the offseason. They finally have a rotation that's pretty damn good. Is Tanaka still there? I feel like maybe he left.
He did leave. He's pitching in Japan this year.
Ah, okay. But still, those are 3 quality arms to start your rotation. I mean, they got some guys that they can put out there and help keep the other team from scoring too many runs while they mash the ball. So this is a team I expect to be about 100 wins. I think I picked just a little underneath that, but
yeah, I'd probably go in the 94 to 96 range. I don't think they'll get to 100. But yeah, a comfortable division win is probably the best way to describe it.
Let's go to the AL Central. And honest to goodness, I think this one's pretty wide open. I think you have 3 teams that could honest to goodness win the division. Minnesota, Chicago. I'm going to throw Cleveland in there. Cleveland surprised everyone and was very good last year. Granted, I shortened season, though.
Yeah, I think I'm a little less – I don't think as highly of Cleveland. I just don't think that they have the horses in the lineup to compete over 162. Like you said, over a short season last year, they were able to throw the ball exceptionally well, and they'll continue to do that. It seems like since Tito Franco has been there, Francona has been there, they have figured out a way to, at sometimes piecemeal a rotation together that is really, really good, and at other times they just have horses out front. And and they give him the ball and say, "Hey, you're going to give us 6 innings. We know you're going to give us 6 innings of shutout ball, 1-run ball, 2-run ball. If we can scratch out 3 or 4 runs, we're going to win a lot of ball games."
Yeah. I mean, I've seen great pitching carry a team.
Yeah.
And Cleveland has that. Will it last 162 games? I doubt it. But I expect this team to be a fringe wild card team. I don't have them in the playoffs. But I think they'll be that first or second team that just misses the cut.
Yeah, I could see them. Generally, what you see with those type of teams is right around 500, maybe a couple of games over 500, 84, 85 wins maybe. But I think Chicago and Minnesota are basically dead even. Chicago did a lot of shoring up in their rotation, and they made, I think, the biggest non-trade of the year, because obviously the 2 big trades of the offseason were Arenado and Lindor, those 2 blockbusters.
Mm-hmm.
Hiring Tony La Russa.
You're a St. Louis guy.
Who I obviously had a soft spot for, winning 2 World Series in St. Louis and retiring, riding off into the sunset after winning the 2011 World Series. And, but he is the great tactician. He's going to flip the AL Central on his head, because he doesn't manage like people do now. He manages in a way that they did in the NL in the 80s and 90s. He pinch hits. He bunts. He plays matchups with pitchers. I mean, the way that he manages and operates a baseball game is just so galaxy brain. I mean, I
worry that this is a move that's just too late. He hasn't managed in a decade. Granted, baseball, it's not like football. Baseball doesn't really change. The goal is to always, you pitch the ball, you hit the ball, you field the ball, you throw the ball. It doesn't really change.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not as old as I thought either. I thought he was like 85 years old, but he's about 74. But
so he's in his mid-70s. I mean, anytime you hire a baseball Hall of Famer,
yeah,
I mean, he is in the Hall of Fame.
And I don't think that knowledge ever leaves.
No.
Maybe when you get into your 80s and 90s, but he's still 74. I don't consider that to be old.
No.
Not in terms of your brain functions or anything like that, unless you're our president. But
he certainly can't run the bases anymore. He certainly can't, throw a bat in practice anymore.
But I think it's huge to bring in a Hall of Fame manager to such a young team. Will it work in the short term? I don't know, but this could set up the White Sox for 10 years. With this young core.
The way that he would be able to teach guys like Luis Robert and Tim Anderson and Eloy Jimenez, who unfortunately went down with an injury earlier this week, but the knowledge that will just be poured into them by Tony La Russa is going to be unmeasurable and will impact their careers for years down the road. I think they also did a good job. Tony brought in one of his guys from St. Louis, and Lance Lynn, who was coming up in the club right when Tony was leaving. He was on the 2011. He was in the bullpen for the 2011 World Series team. Was a stalwart, 5 1/3, 6 1/3 innings guy. You knew he would give you innings of good hard-nosed pitching. To obviously their horse out front with Giolito,
and then Keuchel, and then
Keuchel's another crafty veteran guy, not nearly as dominant as he once was, but can still give you everything that you want from a 2 or a 3 or a 4, maybe depending on where they want to throw him.
Chicago, I think, was last year what the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be this year. Last year, they had their young talent. They went out and got Keuchel and Yasmani Grandal, and then they already had Jose Abreu, and then they just meshed those veterans with the young core, and I think that's what Toronto is going to do this year. And now Chicago, I think, is poised to take a step forward. I actually have them winning the AL Central this year. I think this is the beginning of what we expected, or I shouldn't say expected, but what has been told for the last few years of the White Sox. Watch for this team in 4 or 5 years. I think this is when it gets started. This dynasty, so to speak, as White Sox Dave would say.
Yeah, what we've been talking about for so long.
Yeah.
Watch out for the White Sox. The White Sox are coming. The White Sox are coming. They've arrived. They're here. Now it's time for them to show it and compete. And I think they will. I agree with you. I do think the White Sox will win the division. The Twins will obviously.
Yeah, Twins. I mean, both of these teams I think could win about 100 games.
Especially in a division like the Central. We've got two teams that are not going to be competing in the Tigers and the Royals. An Indians team that could be good, could be average, and then those two teams button heads going at it 19 times. I mean, this is gonna be a dogfight. I mean, it'll come down to the last week of the season. I think both teams will end up making the playoffs, but I give Chicago just a slight edge.
Yeah, I like Minnesota too. They have some arms. They can mash the ball. I just like the White Sox. I think they're more, just a little bit more talented. Minnesota's a little older.
Minnesota's a little older, and I think there's not quite as much arm talent. But just ever so slightly. I mean, Minnesota's got some guys that can throw the ball. Got some crafty guys, like you said, Kenta Maeda. Jose Barrios is a star in the making and has been for a while. Just ready for him to pop. But like I said, it's an ever so slight edge for the Southsiders.
So now we go to the AL West, and I'll be honest, this is another one I think is kind of up for grabs. And I think it's really a two-team race between Oakland and Houston. And I went back and forth. Oakland was my pick last year. I think we both picked Oakland. But everyone was picking Houston. I mean, that was still the team to pick, despite coming off that sign-stealing scandal. And we both ended up picking Oakland, who ended up winning the division. However, who was in the ALCS at the end of the year against the Tampa Bay Rays? It was the Houston Astros. So the Astros felt like a team that kind of caught fire in the postseason. They still have some good players, even though, with the whole sign-stealing scandal. I went with the Astros. I know I wasn't crazy about them last year. I don't even think I picked them to make the playoffs last year. And they did, and then they played not just played in the ALCS, they took it to 7 games against the Rays, I believe. So I still think this team's very good.
Yeah, and one thing you can't count out in baseball, and this goes for teams like the Red Sox and the Yankees and the Indians, and on the National League side, like the Braves and the Cardinals and the Dodgers, is pressure experience. Experience playing in big ball games. The Astros have that. They've been in the postseason every year, it seems, for 6 or 7 years. They've been playing in these high-stress, pressure-packed games. They know how to play these games. They're led out front by Altuve and Correa and Alex Bregman, who have all played hundreds of these games, it seems like. So you can't count them out. I do think that they will take a step back. Losing Springer is going to be a big.
But they got a young guy behind him who's probably going to blossom this year with Springer gone. Kyle Tucker,
yeah, he's kind of been the odd man out in that outfield for the past couple of years. Now he gets a solidified spot that's his. But man, I've always been high on Oakland. I think they're a lot like Tampa Bay. They just have the right mentality as an organization. They've got guys they've got superstars that nobody talked about because it's Oakland.
It wasn't easy for me, but I went with Houston. They got more star power and, kind of a weird year last year. I think, a year to put that scandal behind them, start anew. And I think they're going to do that this year.
Yeah, I think I'm a little higher on the Angels than maybe you are. I think Joe Madden is going to make a difference.
What they do last year? I mean, we talked about that last year. I think they might have just missed the postseason. Might have been around 500, but
yeah, I think so. I think, barring the short year, and like I said, I don't remember what the Angels did. I think even Rendon was maybe hurt or started off the year hurt or got COVID or whatever the case may be. But I think if they find a way to put all of that just absurd talent that they have together, I mean, Trout, Rendon, and Shohei Ohtani are just supremely talented.
Did I see Ohtani got hurt though? Maybe.
No,
I thought I saw his name in the headlines recently.
He's healthy this year and raking in spring training, I believe.
Maybe that's why I saw his name. Yeah.
They are good. They have horses out front that can lead them. It's with the Angels. It's always going to be, do they have the pitching to keep up with?
They're like the reverse Cleveland.
Exactly. So I could see the Angels making a push, and I just hate again that we're probably not going to see Mike Trout in the playoffs. But man, if he does get in the playoffs, if the Angels do make a push, it's going to be must-see TV.
So you took Oakland. I'm going to take Houston.
Yeah.
So then I think we both agree Angels are probably third in that division, and then round it out with Texas and probably Seattle. I'd keep an eye on Texas though. They've been brewing something.
I would keep an eye on Seattle. I really like a pissed off ball club. And Seattle is thoroughly pissed off because the former GM, just ragdolled them to a Rotary Club or whoever the hell he was talking to.
I might have seen something about that. I don't remember though.
I think Seattle can make a little bit of noise. Obviously I'm not going to pick them to win the division or make the playoffs, but I could see Seattle pulling something together and going 500 or a couple games over 500 and competing with the Angels as the middle of that division instead of trying to compete with the Rangers at the bottom.
That's definitely interesting. Hey, I mean, I like the Mariners. I don't know why. I just do. I cheer for them. I don't know why. Just because they're just. They're like the Cleveland Browns of MLB almost.
They kind of are. I've always liked the Mariners because I feel like they have some of the best uniforms and hats.
Yes, yeah, I like I like their look. Just the S with the baseball. They're look in general, the color scheme. I like it, especially the retro look with like the royal blue and the yellow with the trident M. I love that look.
I like the retros. I like the Griffey era stuff with the kind of the star with the S, the kind of teal and navy, the Edgar Martinez years, John Olerud, those type of years.
So let's talk wild cards now. I have a feeling we're gonna have the same two wild cards.
Yeah. We probably will because I'm probably going Tampa Bay and Minnesota.
Ooh.
In some order.
One out of two.
Yeah.
So Tampa. So you got Tampa as what, the 4 seed, and Minnesota as the 5. Vice versa. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, Tampa 4, Minnesota 5. Yeah.
So I have Minnesota right now as the 4. Again, it doesn't really matter because it's a 4 and 5 matchup. But I actually, like I did last year with the Chicago White Sox, even before it was announced that the playoffs were expanding, which I think was announced like the day of opening day. And I think we made our picks the day before. And I picked the White Sox before that announcement was made when it was slated for just 10 postseason teams again. And I picked the White Sox. This year, I'm going out on a limb. I'm going to go Toronto Blue Jays. I think they're poised. I like the moves they made. They got a solid young core. I like the veterans they added. Like the White Sox, I think they're poised to take a step forward and win 90-some games.
The Blue Jays were the 6th team, if you will. where the other team.
So that was the other thing I wanted to talk about the White Sox. I forgot about this. The White Sox, I remembered when I was making my picks, because I was going to go White Sox originally, or maybe the Twins, I don't remember. But I was like, the White Sox, weren't they like 7th in the AL last year? So they started out hot and trailed off. That wasn't the case at all. They got the 7th seed because the top 2 teams in each division got the top 6 spots. And the White Sox actually had a better record than the Astros, who were the 6th seed, and I think the Yankees, who were the 4 or 5, and then Cleveland got the 4 or 5 over the White Sox because of a tiebreaker, so they ended up with the 7th spot. So again, more reason why I like the White Sox.
I remember that now, actually. I mean, this is another year. Well, this is actually a bit of a reverse of how the AL used to be, where it used to be so top heavy. And
I was going to say that, yeah. AL, I think, is
basically
jam-packed with teams.
Who was going to make the playoffs. And now, with all these teams making these moves and solidifying things and really getting better, I think it really opens up the league for some real good races down the stretch.
Yeah. Because, I mean, there are a lot of teams I left out that I like. I like Tampa. I like Cleveland a little bit. And I like Oakland. So there are 8 teams competing for 5 playoff spots.
Yeah, I think it'll be the AL has gotten so much better over the offseason, really.
Yeah. Really the last 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
So let's go to slide over to our side, the NL. NL MVP, who you got?
You're going to make fun of me for this.
You're going to go Nolan Arenado, I bet.
Absolutely, I'm going Nolan Arenado.
I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it.
And here's the thing.
Look, I love Nolan Arenado. He's a great player. This is not a dumb pick at all.
Here's the thing. I think he's got something to prove. I think he is finally out of Colorado, where I feel like was underappreciated as the probably second best player in baseball. That may be debatable, but in my eyes,
I don't think people realize how good Nolan Arenado is. This dude entered the league a Gold Glove winner and has won a Gold Glove probably every year he's been in the league at the hot corner.
Every year he's been in the league. He has won a Platinum Glove, I believe, 3 or 4 times.
So what's a Platinum Glove?
So the Platinum Glove is a newer award they give to the best overall fielder in both leagues.
So I guess like fielding percentage decides that?
It did last year. I don't know.
Probably errors factor into that too.
I think it's kind of overall body of work type thing. Yachty's got a couple of them. Arenado's got a couple of them. I think in the AL, guys like Jackie Bradley Jr. may have a couple.
I mean, in terms of a dude who can hit and field, I don't think Nolan Arenado is the best in the league at both of those things, combined. But there's not very many dudes better than him.
Certainly not at his position, and definitely, and like you said, I don't know, and I've obviously become very biased in my opinion of Arenado, but I just think now that he's out of Colorado, he's out of the shadow of all these trade rumors that have been going on for so many years, and after he signed that deal, and I just think he's in a place where people are going to adore him. Yeah. Watching him play third base. I think he is going to just absolutely not blossom, because he's already blossomed. He's a freaking mega superstar. But I just think he is going to assume his role as a member of the core of this team and just take it and run with it. So, yeah, I think he can hit 345 home runs and 120 RBIs. I really do think he can do that. So yeah, I'm going Arenado.
I remember picking him to win NL MVP, and I picked the Rockies to make one of the wild card spots in 2017, I believe. And I was called stupid.
Yeah.
And then they ended up making the wild card spot. Arenado didn't win MVP, but they ended up making a wild card spot.
And then I believe they won the wild card game in Arizona. and went on and
I
played.
think Arizona won that year. I think they made it the following year and beat Chicago in Chicago.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
But I love Colorado. I don't know why. I just like the Colorado Rockies. I hate to see Arenado go, but when they made that move, I cursed the Cardinals. Like that's such a I have such respect for the Cardinals. I'm like, that's such a fucking Cardinals move. Like, damn it, I respect them.
I saw when I don't think we've talked since. Maybe we've talked once since.
I don't think we've talked since the Arenado trade. I think the Lindor trade was before the Arenado trade.
The details of that trade are just so asinine.
Yeah.
The Colorado Rockies paid the Cardinals $51 million.
How do you that's a player? Like, I'm giving up my best player. I'm not forfeiting money unless he's a cancer, and I don't think Arenado's a cancer.
$51 million. And the guys we sent to him are, no slouches by any means. But Austin Gomber being the centerpiece of that trade, it's a guy that certainly we were relying on to play a role. I wouldn't say we were relying on him to play a starring role this year. He was a kind of a fringe fifth starter bullpen guy. And then we gave up none of our top 10 prospects for Nolan Arenado.
That's crazy.
And we received Arenado.
Talk about a trade rate.
Contract and $51 million from the Colorado Rockies.
See, that's such a Cardinals move. Oh, I know. Okay, so my NL MVP, you're going to love this. I'm going with someone who has exploded onto the scene. I'm going to give him a nice preamble here. This is a man.
Go for it.
Who, I'm trying to think of the right words, because I don't know him all that well. This is a man who has exploded onto the scene in the last year. Led a ball club who has had virtually no history of success, aside from one player in the 80s and 90s. I might have just given it away.
Yeah.
This is a man who is the current as the Rocket, I don't even remember his name, Jared Carrabis would say, the face of baseball. I'm going with Mr. Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah, that's a good pick. He's certainly the most exciting player in baseball right now, with the bat flips.
And he just signed a humongous contract.
Monstrous deal.
What is it, $340 million over 13 years or something like that?
Was it 320, 318?
It was over 300. That's all I remember.
It was,
and it was 11 or 12 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my NL MVP pick. Might be, I don't know if that would be chalk. I'm not sure it is, but
14 years, $340 million.
What's crazy is he's only going to make about 170 of that living out in California.
Yep, he will make very little of it.
That is, I'm so sick of California. I don't know how people live out there. NL Cy Young Award. I went chalk as well. I did go chalk here. Just because I really like the dude. I hated that he left one of my teams. But I love Trevor Bauer Power Hour. I went with Trevor Bauer.
The problem is I don't think Trevor Bauer is the best pitcher on his team.
True. That's fair.
I think Walker Buehler is a better pitcher than Trevor Bauer and is 10 years younger than him. I went off the wall here. Max Fried.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to go with another Cardinal.
No, I did not go with Flaherty. I kind of wanted to. But no, I
don't know if they're still dating. He used to have a smoke of a girlfriend.
Rocket.
Just pure rocket. I don't know if they're still dating. I still follow her on Instagram. She's still just. Oh.
He's a good man. He is not ugly. But no, Max Fried.
Okay. A little bold. I like it.
I think is really primed for a big year in Atlanta. He's kind of he has power pitch. He's a power pitcher, but he has such good control of. I believe he throws 2 fastballs, kind of a 4-seamer, classic 4-seamer, and a cutter or a 2-seamer type. But his 2 pitches, his changeup and his curveball, he has such great control and knows exactly when to throw them. I think he's going to burst onto the scene. If he doesn't win Cy Young, he will be very, very close. He's playing on a good team, which I think matters in these type of awards. So a little off the wall, but Max Fried is my pick.
I always respect bold picks because you're giving someone different. Everyone knows Clayton Kershaw, probably Walker Buehler too, Trevor Bauer. Max Fried, no one knows who Max Fried is. I respect you for it. And it's really not stupid, I don't think. I mean, he's a good pitcher. He plays for a good team.
He's probably the number 1 on a very good team. So it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility, but yeah, a little off the wall. We'll see.
NL Rookie of the Year. I think this was another one I went chalk. I went with someone in the NL Central, third baseman, Ke'Bryan Hayes for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Ke'Bryan Hayes. He is kind of the cornerstone, of their rebuild. I went with him as well. He is supremely talented. He's going to be a menace in our division for a long, long time.
Pittsburgh, they can't really put it together in terms of an overall team, but I feel like they always seem to have one guy, guy that can just do everything right.
He's going to be the next Andrew McCutchen.
Yeah,
and it's going to infuriate me to no end because for 8 years, the Cardinals could not get Andrew McCutchen out. He was hitting homers. He was hitting doubles. He was making.
I loved Andrew McCutchen in Pittsburgh. I loved him in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
Ever since he left, he hasn't been the same player. But
what happened when Andrew McCutchen played the St. Louis Cardinals? He was a Hall of Fame player. I have a birdie, like a devil on my shoulder that's saying Ke'Bryan Hayes is going to be that for the next 10 years. So I also went with him. I think there's a Cardinal that can make a push. His name is Dylan Carlson.
I've heard of this name.
They traded Fowler to make a spot for him. They will give him right field from opening day will be Dylan Carlson's spot. Probably hit second or 5th or 6th in the lineup. They are finally giving him the at-bats that he needs because he is 22, I think, and for 3 years was the number 1 prospect in our farm system.
And he's going to enter a rotation. We can get to that later, but he's going to enter a rotation where he's going to be the 4th, 5th maybe guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, he is he's primed for a big year. So that's another name to watch. But yeah, the Ke'Bryan Hayes is I went with that too.
So now let's start with divisions in the NL. NL East. I think the NL East is probably just a 2-team race right now. Then I think you have 2 teams that are wild cards. And 1 team I'm just not sure is going to compete. The 2 teams that I think are going to compete for this division title are the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets.
Yeah. I'm the Mets obviously got better.
Yeah.
There's no 2 ways about it. Trading for Lindor boosts their talent immensely. I know you're a Mets fan. You bleed orange and blue.
Nah, not really. I don't really bleed any of these. I cheer for the Reds. I cheer for the Mets because my dad and my brother are Reds fans. My grandfather was a Mets fan. So they got places in my heart, but
Yeah,
I don't really follow baseball as closely as I do football. I bleed green and gold for Green Bay, but not so much for baseball.
That's a good point. And you're more of a Packer and a Bruin guy than anything else,
Yeah.
but I think you're probably right. It's not that I don't think the Mets are talented. They obviously have all the talent in the world. I won't trust the Mets until I see it. That's bias in me of years of watching them squander.
No, I think that's 100% fair. In the last 5 years, though, they've been all right. They've made a World Series. They made it to the playoffs the following year. But then, ever since then, it's gone downhill. I think they've started to get back on track, though.
I think they're starting to put a lot of things together. They've got 3 guys at least that are bona fide, I think, superstars with Lindor and Pete Alonso and Michael Conforto.
I was going to say Jacob deGrom. You went another direction there.
And then I went, and then obviously on the bump, deGrom's probably the best pitcher in the league. He could very easily win the Cy Young.
I debated going him, but he's already won it twice, like in the last 3 years.
Two out of the last 3 Cy Youngs. So, like I said, I wanted to kind of go away from that for a little bit, but absolute stalwart of an ace. And then guys behind him like Cookie Carrasco. Is Syndergaard healthy finally?
I don't know, but they have Stroman.
And then Stroman.
I mean, those are 4, if Syndergaard's healthy, those are 4 really good arms.
Yeah, those are 4 guys that can absolutely pitch them into the playoffs. Not even mentioning Brandon Nimmo, I think, is a very good ball player. Jeff McNeil, I think, is a very good ball player.
J.D. Davis isn't even that bad.
Underrated. J.D. Davis is an underrated ball player. They have.
Then you mentioned that they made probably the most underrated free agency signing and getting, is it James McCann?
McCann, yeah, the catcher, yeah. So they did a lot of – they got a lot better, like I said. But so did Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta bringing back Marcell Ozuna was probably the biggest free agent signing.
Top to bottom, Atlanta's still better. I had to give them the edge.
Outside of Springer, Marcell Ozuna, I think for what he means to that team as protection for Acuna and Freddie Freeman.
And then Ozzie Albies can hit. Swanson's good. Darno can hit it sometimes. If there's a weakness with the Braves, I think it might be their pitching. But as you have said, they have a lot of young guys that are kind of just starting out, and I think bringing in Charlie Morton is huge, a proven veteran, to help with those young guys in their development.
Let me see.
And the Braves are just well run. They have a good front office. They have a good manager. I'll be shocked, barring injury, I'll be shocked if the Braves don't win this division again.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then Washington
the rest of this division are teams that have flaws. I don't want to interrupt you. I don't mean to anyway. But Washington, I think the window's kind of closed. They won that World Series, and everyone picked them in 2020. They finished last in the division. I expect them to be better, and they have Scherzer, but I think it's kind of closed. They don't really have anyone else outside of Juan Soto.
Yeah, I think losing Rendon obviously played a big role in last year's season. I think that will be amplified this year in 162. But Juan Soto is maybe one of the best pure hitters in the league right now, and he's only 23, 24 maybe.
Yeah, I think his name was maybe the favorite to an NL MVP. I don't remember. He was near the top.
Yeah, he could very, very easily win MVP. I think he's, like I said, maybe one of the best pure hitters in Major League Baseball. There's some stats that I seen. I can't remember exactly what it is. It may be his like batting average, on base percentage, and slugging slashes. That up to his age 22 season, the only people that compare to him are Jimmy Fox and Ted Williams. Like,
I don't know. Jamie Foxx doesn't ring a bell, but obviously Ted Williams does.
Of the biggest names of the pre-war World War II era, both first ballot Hall of Famers. I mean,
I didn't know this. Did you know Ted Williams served in the World War II? I think it was World War II. Maybe it was that or Korea.
Right in the middle of his career, he served in both.
Was it both? I didn't know that until a few weeks ago. I was like, that's crazy.
A lot of guys did that. Stan Musial did it. Stan Musial took off 3 years in the middle of his prime to go serve in World War II. But yeah, having your name alongside Ted Williams as a left-handed hitter, pretty decent company to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Washington, if Scherzer, Strasburg.
Forgot about Strasburg, yeah.
And I think Corbin's still there.
I believe so. I think they signed him to a big deal. Wasn't he in New York with the Yankees?
I thought he came from Arizona.
I think you're right. You're right. He was in Arizona.
I can't remember who he came from, but
he was linked to the Yankees. I remember that, but he ended up signing with Washington.
They could lead the team. They have the pitching to do it up front. Those top three are as good as any top three. Back of the rotation and into the bullpen, arms just aren't there, and really the bats that they have left.
Another name I forgot to mention with the White Sox, now that we're on the Washington Nationals, Adam Eaton left the Nationals and joined the Chicago White Sox. So that's another guy. Not a very good bat, but he's a good defender and speedster.
Better presence, yeah. Trey Turner is a centerpiece of their team, but they've lost so many bats over the years. Ryan Zimmerman is at the end of his career, and I want to say that they're probably counting on him to play at least a little bit of third and or first. I mean, Kurt Suzuki may still be catching for him. I mean, like you said, their window is kind of closing. So I think they're a pretty distant third from those two up top. And then who knows what the hell to do with Philadelphia.
I was just about to say, that was a team I thought Girardi was going to come in and make them a playoff team from the get-go. I respect him as a manager, and they really didn't do anything. I mean, the playoffs were expanded, and you still missed it.
All the talent in the world, and you miss an 8-team playoff in your league. I mean, there's just you say that about the Mets. This has become my New York Mets. I'll believe it when I see it with the Phillies. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think Girardi is a good manager. Yeah. He had a lot of really good New York teams, but on the flip side of that, he also had some bad Yankees teams that had just the Yankees, of course, always have just astronomical amounts of talent, and they didn't make many postseason runs. I mean, they made a couple. They made a run into the ALCS. They lost in the DS. They maybe lost a wild card game. I mean, and just with all of his talent, I don't really know. I don't know what the deal was there, but it's the same thing is happening with the Phillies. They've got all this talent. They've got all these big names, but they just can't seem to put it all together. So they're such a wild card. And then obviously the Marlins are the Marlins.
Marlins, so this was actually the team I said I'm not expecting to compete in this division. But I said that last year, and they made the playoffs. I believe won a playoff series.
They did. They beat the Cubs.
Did they beat the Cubs?
They beat the Cubs in I want to say in 2.
I think you're right. Who played in the NLCS then? Dodgers and who? Was it Dodgers Braves in the NLCS?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think the Braves made it that far, but I guess they did. I thought it was the Cubs.
The Marlins beat the Cubs, and I believe
But
the
now
Marlins
that you mention that rings a bell, yeah.
got thrashed by Atlanta.
The Marlins, everyone bashed Derek Jeter when he took over that team for trading away all their best players for prospects. But now I look at the Marlins and I really like their future. I just don't think they're good enough to make it work for 162 games. 60 games is one thing. 162 is completely different.
They're certainly building something. Their kind of ace young gun right now is a guy named Sandy Alcantara that they got in the Marcell Ozuna trade with St. Louis, and he is he's just a little firecracker. He throws the ball so damn hard, and he's working on these. He's really working to become a more complete pitcher and throw a second and a third and a fourth pitch. He's really working on a changeup. I believe he's working on like a splitter type, and then he's working on a real big snap off slider. That like I said, they are really really building something toward the future, and obviously that's going to take a while. Just because of the sale of the team and all that, but they're a team kind of like Chicago, like the White Sox were, or 5 or 6, 7 years ago, where we're saying, okay, they're not very good right now, but watch out and
give it 5 years, and it'll be a completely different conversation. It has with the White Sox.
Yeah,
the Blue Jays are entering that conversation, and I think the Marlins or Mariners aren't too far behind.
They're really taking the blueprint that was laid out by Houston and the Cubs of take your lumps for 4 or 5 years, draft all these just stupid talent at the top of your draft, really draft really well, and in 3 or 4 years, once you develop these guys, whether they're college or high school guys, develop them, and when they get to the big leagues, they're not going to be scared of anything. They're going to be ready to compete, and the league's going to have to watch out. So when my kids are going to kindergarten, like watch out for.
We'll be talking about the Marlins.
Marlins, yeah.
So we're going to slide over. Let's do our division last because that's always fun. Let's go to the NL West. Earlier when I was thinking about National League, all the different teams that could compete in the divisions and stuff, I said the NL West was a one-team race. But then I backtracked. I was like, no. This is a two-team race. Just one team is going to win it, though.
This is a two-team. I think it's a two-team dog race. I mean, I think it's going to come down I think it's going to come down a lot closer than people think. The Giants, the Rockies, and the Diamondbacks, thanks for playing. Nobody cares about you this year.
Look, the Rockies just traded away Nolan Arenado. They're done. The Giants are still figuring things out. The Diamondbacks are kind of a tweener. They don't have Greinke. They used to have Greinke. They have Bumgarner. They have some guys that are okay. They're probably a 500 team at the best. But yeah.
But no, this is a two-team dog race fight to the end. And surprisingly enough, I'm going San Diego.
Hot damn. I like it.
To win the division.
I can't go. Look, the Padres have had probably the best offseason aside from Toronto, or better than Toronto, whatever, kind of pick or choose.
They've had the best offseason of any team in a decade. They just
Blake Snell was a big get. Darvish was a big get. Jurickson Profar is a pretty good player. I mean, they had a great offseason.
Let's call it what it is. They put their dick on the table.
Yeah. This was a front office that did it last year at the deadline.
Said, bang, here it is.
They did it last year at the deadline. They got 4 or 5. Mike Clevenger was the big name, but then they got like 4 other players that are good role players, good starters. Not necessarily all-stars, but good players. And then they kept Clevenger. You got Tatis Jr., you got Eric Hosmer, you got Will Myers, and I'm forgetting somebody else that they have. But
Manny Machado.
Yeah, Manny Machado, thank you. The weakness was pitching. Now you got Snell and Clevenger and Darvish. And now look at this team. This team can win. And not just win, I think they can win over 100 games. The problem is the Dodgers are, and we've talked about this before, the Dodgers are just so damn great and talented and deep. Like they are so deep.
Yeah.
At every position. And it's not like they're just loaded with dudes in the majors. They have as deep of a farm system as you can imagine too. So let's pretend they have some injuries in the starting rotation, they'll throw some prospects and go get whoever's the top pitching guy on the market.
Yeah, and that's and this, like I said, this very obviously is going to be this is going to be the most exciting division to watch.
I would agree, yeah,
because of the amount of talent that is going to be in the forefront. I mean, so I pulled up the active roster here for the San Diego Padres. Let's go top 5 starters and their probable opening day starting lineup. Starters, I'll go.
I'm going to need another beer for this.
Darvish, I believe Lamet is hurt, but if he's not, he's in there. Pomeranz, Snell. Clevenger, I believe, is hurt.
Carabas hates Drew Pomeranz.
Joe Musgrove, Adrian Morejon, I believe is how you say that. And then at the end of the bullpen, Mark Melanson is as solid as they come.
Yeah, I don't remember what their bullpen was like last year. If I remember right, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't really elite.
Chris Paddock is a name that could start at the end. He's had very good seasons. Emilio Pagan is a flamethrower. Craig Stammen is a flamethrower. Taylor Williams. I mean, these guys, they just have names up and down the lineup. Victor Caratini and Austin Nola will probably platoon at catcher. Caratini as the switch hitter, probably left-handed guy. Nola as the righty. Eric Hosmer at first. Probably Hae-Sung Kim, who they got from, I believe, the KBO.
That was another name that popped up, yeah.
From the KBO. I believe he's probably going to play second. And then obviously the horses on the left side, and Tatis and
I need to get me if they still sell it, a Face of Baseball Tatis Jr. shirt from Barstool.
Yeah.
They came out with a great Bob Huggins shirt at Barstool, and I bought both the shirt and the hoodie, so I'm stocked up.
Huggy Bear shirts. Their outfield is not as what I would call like star-laden, I guess. But they have just guys that are just solid at what they do. Trent Grisham, Will Myers, Tommy Pham, Jurickson Profar.
I forgot about Tommy Pham. That's another quality starter.
Are 4 guys that can absolutely do anything that they need.
Is it just me, or does it feel like the Padres? Like, I knew they had a good farm system, but it feels like they came out of nowhere and have been great out of just nowhere. Like, they're good right now.
They kind of went a different direction than a lot of teams are doing now, and they truly have kind of bought a team. With the exception of Tatis, all of those guys that I just named.
Yeah, I know that they went out and got Machado and Hosmer, and they traded for Snell and Darvish. So you're right, but yeah, I think Tatis Jr. was a guy they built from within.
Will Myers is a homegrown guy, but other than him, maybe Danielson Lamet, Chris Paddock is a homegrown guy. But other than that, they have really kind of gone the let's buy a championship route.
One of my biggest pet peeves while we're on the NL West is people bitching about the LA Dodgers payroll, about how, and don't get me wrong, baseball has a payroll problem right now, and this fake salary cap, you know what I mean? It's not really a cap. Only a handful of teams can even reach that high, and it's chump change to them. But people complaining about the Dodgers, and some people really believe that the Dodgers have just bought their team, and it's 100% false. The only dudes that they really have bought are Trevor Bauer. You could argue Mookie Betts, but they traded for him, and then they signed him to a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else has been homegrown. We built from within. We've talked about this on the podcast, but it drives me nuts. Yes, their payroll is big, but it's because they've developed these guys and paid them, and then they're the Dodgers. They have money. Then they went out and got Bauer. They traded from Betts and gave him a big contract. But that drives me nuts. People need to educate themselves.
Yeah, I agree. So knowing what we know about the Padres, let's move over to LA and just go through what they have.
Yeah.
I mean, Bauer.
You have 3 MVP former MVPs on roster. Usually
Bauer,
a team has 1.
Kershaw is absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Not to mention guys like
and then they have young arms like Dustin May, and there was another one I forgot about.
Joe Kelly in the bullpen. He's not really young anymore. Jansen's not really young anymore, but Blake Trinan is still in that bullpen. I mean,
then the infield, like Justin Turner and I don't even remember who plays first. Max Muncy. It was Cody Bellinger. Now he's in the outfield.
Seager at shortstop.
Seager, yeah.
Was MVP. Gavin Lux can play basically anywhere.
All those dudes, I'm sure, have made all-star teams. The only thing I don't really know is catcher, but I think you told me that they have a young catching prospect, kind of
Will Smith.
Will Smith.
Young catching prospect. He and Austin Barnes will probably do a small amount of platooning. I think Barnes is Kershaw's like personal catcher essentially, and kind of like David Ross was.
Is Jock Peterson still with the team?
Jock plays for. Who does he play for now? The Cubs.
Does he? Okay, I thought he might have left town, but Betts, Bellinger, and I think Chris Taylor is in left maybe.
Chris Taylor, A.J. Pollock can play left.
Yeah, I forgot about A.J. Pollock. So, there's so much depth on this team.
Gavin Lux can play left.
It's just it's almost not fair, but I can't bitch about it because they've done it right. Like I said, I can't complain. They didn't buy the team. They built from within. They're just great at scouting and developing.
You could argue Bauer, obviously in free agency. David
Price. And that's why I don't like the Dodgers, but I respect it. If they win, I don't have a problem with it. They've done it right, and they've excelled at it so far.
Yeah. They, top to bottom, they probably are the most talented team in the league. And I think that's not really a debate. I just think this is a Padres year.
So let's get down to you pick the Padres. I think it's pretty clear. I'm picking the Dodgers. They've won this division 6 or 7 years in a row, maybe 8 years now.
The last time they didn't, I believe, was
2010. I think
2014.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Last year the Giants won the World Series.
I thought they were a wild card that year. Maybe 2013. I think.
Or did
I think the Giants won the division in 2013. I think you're right.
Was there one weird year where Colorado won by a game or Arizona won by a game? I can't.
No, I'm pretty sure since 2013 the Dodgers have won this division.
Maybe you're right.
I think in 2013 because I think the Giants were the 3 seed in the NL, and you only get that if you've won a division. So I think that was the last time someone other than the Dodgers won. Diamondbacks have been good, but they've gotten in as a wild card. Rockies have been good, but gotten in as a wild card. Same with the Giants. Padres were, also kind of a wild card. So this past year, so I think it's pretty obvious who I'm picking to win this division. I'm going Dodgers, but I got a big prediction for you because I'm so high on the Dodgers. We just went through their roster. I think this team breaks the single season wins record.
You think they beat 120?
116, I believe, is still the record.
Beat by the 0-1 Mariners?
Yeah. Where's the weakness? Where's the weakness? I know the Padres are good, But the rest of the division's not that great. There's no team that can really compete with them night in, night out, except the Padres.
That was the thing with the Mariners in 01, and it's crazy because the Angels won the World Series the next year. But really, in 01, they had nobody to compete with them in the West.
This time is different. So, yeah, maybe my pick isn't great. But
it was 4 teams back then. The Rangers were bad. The A's were bad. And the Angels were okay. They won a World Series the next year, but I don't remember them being world beaters in 01. Because that was who won the World Series in 01? The Diamondbacks won the World Series in 01, beating the Yankees.
Mm-hmm. So that year, I think it was that year, my family went out to Arizona for a trip, and we watched the Diamondbacks, and then I'm pretty sure they won the World Series in a few months later. So that was always kind of cool.
Yeah. So that's the thing where I'm a little hesitant to make a call like that, just because, like you said, they do have a team that is going to compete with them in their division. Now, having 5 teams in the divisions is helpful. The Mariners, like I said, the Mariners only had 3 other teams in their division. So there are 3 teams that they're going to be able to beat up on.
But so you play the bottom 3 teams 19 times. What is that? 57 games. 19, 38. I think 57. That's not half, but you only got 100 more games, and you can win about 50 of them.
That's a large chunk of to get there.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. They very well could make it there. I don't think they quite. I see them winning 100 and. If they win the division, I could see them anywhere from 102 to 108 wins. Like I said, I could also see the Padres being there. The thing is, I don't think a team has won 110 games since the Mariners have. There may have been a team that got there.
I know the Red Sox got close in 2018. Yeah, it was 108. But I'm going to be bold. That's my bold pick. The Dodgers break the single-season wins record.
I like that. I think I remember one of the very first times I came on your show.
I remember this. I was just about to say, you picked the Astros. I don't think you picked.
The Astros to do it.
I don't think you picked. I think you just said watch out for the Astros to do it. But I think even that year they might have won 102, 104 games.
It's just so hard to win. I mean, think about it mathematically.
Yeah.
Which you and I are, certainly.
I mean, that's got to be what 70. You got to win 70% of the games.
75% of your games. I mean, that's just.
Like I was honestly surprised. I thought 65% was a lot, and that only averages out to equals like 95 or 96 wins. I think around 65%. If you win 65% of your games, let me look it up here. 96 wins divided by 162. Sorry, 59. So 162 times 65 is 105. That's not inconceivable.
And
now,
that's
116 divided by 162 is 71.6%. So basically, you got to win 3/4 of your games.
That's just so hard to do because the league is just so talented now. There's really not a team that doesn't have a guy that scares you. That doesn't scare you. I mean, there's teams that certainly are not built to compete, but they have guys that absolutely will scare you. The Orioles, the Marlins, the Tigers, the Royals, the Rangers. They all have guys that you have to game plan for that can beat you. I just think the Dodgers, they got 3 Cy Young contenders in their rotation. 2 of them have won. I don't think Walker Buehler has won yet. Not yet. He's going to. Bullpen's great. But then in the field, you have 6 to 8 all-stars, guys who have been all-stars in their careers, then 2 to 3 fringe all-stars.
On top of that, you got a great manager and a great farm system.
Yeah.
Great front office. It's just hard for me to not see this team winning over 110 games.
Yeah.
Like last year, they won 42 in a 60-game season. I think, something like that. It was over 40.
That's bonkers. I didn't think anybody would get close to that last year.
I'm pretty sure it was 42 and 18. 42 divided by 60. That's 70% of your wins. Like that's winning 70% of the time. That's almost 116. And they got better by adding Bauer. Now, granted, injuries could be a factor this year, but it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be crazy if they do.
It'll be something to watch. I don't hate it. Like I said, I don't think they'll get there. But man, if they do, it'll be a whole story.
So now we get to our division. We spent enough time on the NL West. Let's go to the NL Central, our division. I think 3 teams could win this division.
I think
4th that could potentially make a run, and then a 5th that is in clearly rebuild mode.
Yeah, one is clearly out in the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yep.
Full-blown rebuild around Key Brian Hayes and others. This is the bias coming out of me again. I'm low on Chicago.
Yeah, I actually am too. Granted, we said that last year and they won the division.
Of course.
But I think it's really justified this time because Yu Darvish is out of town. John Lester's out of town. They still have Bryant and Rizzo, but Bryant's kind of wanting a new contract. They still have dudes that are good. I just don't know if any of their pitching.
Yeah, losing Darvish, losing Johnny Lester. They did bring back Arrieta. Kyle Hendricks is maybe the most infuriating pitcher on the face of the planet as a Cardinal fan because he has taken the mantle from John Lester of just being just flummoxing Cardinal hitters, throwing the ball 88 miles an hour. And if he pitched against every game against the Cardinals, he'd have a 1 ERA and win Cy Young and MVPs every year. But after that, there's not a lot. I mean, it's on both sides of the ball. After Hendricks and Arrieta, what do you have really? Their bullpen's okay. I mean, like I said, most teams now have guys out of the bullpen that can come in and just pump gas. But
and how much of them winning the division last year was a 60-game weird season?
Was weird, and they I'm not even going to say got hot. They just
well, then once it came playoff time, what happened? They were bounced early. I just don't think this team can grind for 162 games.
I don't think they can either. They're getting old. They lost Schwarber.
Like I want to say this division is wide open, but it's not really wide open with any team that really like the Dodgers stand out, the Padres stand out, the Braves stand out.
So
the Cardinals stand out, but even then, I think the Cardinals have flaws.
Yeah, they certainly do. There's one very large, glaring flaw that we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, I don't trust Bryant and Baez and Jock Peterson now.
Jock Peterson, look, I think Jock Peterson is the most overrated baseball player.
Anthony Rizzo is solid, but ball player as they come. Hayward is still a veteran presence. He's lost a step or two.
He was never that good before he got to St. Louis. Shocker! What organization turns him into a solid player at St. Louis? Once Atlanta traded him to St. Louis, I was like, this dude's probably gonna be a 300 hitter. He almost was. Then he goes to the Cubs. I was like, I guarantee you he's going to suck. He helped them win a World Series, but he really wasn't that good during that World Series run. He hit probably about 270. He just hasn't been the same player since he left St. Louis. Shocker. St. Louis knows what to get out of their ball club. The players in their ball club.
Love when that happens. Yeah, I mean, there's just not. I just don't have confidence in the Cubs, and I love saying that because I want them to not succeed. But it's the truth. I mean, they're getting older, and David Ross is still kind of trying to prove himself as a manager. In managing terms, he's very young. So
he showed me a lot, but he's got his work cut out for him this year.
Yeah, I mean, I love David Ross, Auburn guy. Really charismatic and funny, but I don't see the Cubs being able to compete with the other three teams in the division, being the Reds and the Brewers, and then the Cardinals on top.
Don't put the Reds up there. That was the team I said that could potentially compete. Don't put the Reds up there. Don't put the Reds up there.
Don't. You don't want me to? I have them third. I mean, I don't.
I think they're fourth at best, maybe third at best.
I don't think that they can compete with Milwaukee and St. Louis. So here's really what I think about the Central: is there's a gap, but really between every team. I think the Cardinals are the best team in the division, and then I think there's a gap down to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I think there's a gap between Milwaukee and Cincinnati. I think there's a gap between Cincinnati and Chicago, and then there's a massive gap between Chicago and Pittsburgh.
Yep.
I just think this division isn't really as wide open as a lot of people may think because
I just think there's more teams that could potentially win it than maybe others. But
I think because I don't think Cincinnati has what it takes.
Look, Cincinnati spent money last offseason on offense, and they still finished dead last in batting average.
Yeah.
So, granted, it could change this year. Speaking of, while we're on the topic of Cincinnati, they got some dudes I like. I like Moustakas. I like Castellanos. Nick Senzel sounds like he's having a great spring. Eugenio Suarez is really good. They have Tucker Barnhart. I like. They have good, decent starting pitching.
Joey Votto's always going to be solid.
No. I'm on my brother. My brother has been bitching about Joey Votto for the last 3 years, and every now and then he has a great game, and I give him shit for it. But I'm with my brother. He hits about 200. He's trying to get singles and just get walks more than he's trying to win. I'm not a Joey Votto guy.
I like Joey Votto. I think he's still has.
Hey, you know who could probably get the most out of him right now? St. Louis.
Yeah, we don't need a first baseman though. We got Paul Goldschmidt. And then I think Milwaukee has a strength, has the best strength of any team in the division in their bullpen. They've got a guy named Devin Williams who was a rookie last year, who was an absolute star in the making as a reliever.
I think West Virginia had a dude who played basketball named Devin Williams.
Maybe this kid is this ball player. He's got maybe the nastiest changeup I have ever seen anybody throw. And then pairing him with Josh Hader from the left.
Yeah, I thought that's who it was. Devin Williams. He played at WVU.
Good.
Basketball. Different sport, but yeah.
Different sport, but I think those two guys, and then they've got some other arms in the bullpen. I think as a unit is probably the best unit in the division, and is their strong suit. What they don't have is starters, really.
Yeah, and I like guys they have in the field. Lorenzo Cain, Christian Yelich, is going to be an MVP candidate probably. They got pieces I like. I think they're well run. I like Craig Counsell as a manager. I just don't think they have the horses.
They picked up Colton Wong, which I hate. I love Colton Wong in St. Louis, but with the Arenado trade, we kind of bounced the guy over to second that we were using at third a lot, and so Colton, and in a weird year where finances were kind of weird. Because St. Louis is so dependent on ticket revenue, and without fans, that their finances were just shot.
I was doing some research. I was trying to figure out like attendance for games in really all professional sports. I was trying to do like expansion or, like relocation, stuff to mess with during COVID quarantine. And I looked at baseball, and it surprised me over the last 5 years. The top 5 teams were usually teams in big markets: LA, New York, Boston. But the team that was always 2, 3, up there, 1, 2, or 3 was St. Louis. Like, for a city that's not that big, sell out just about every game.
St. Louis regularly puts 40. I believe the capacity is 43,000, and just about any time they're playing a ball game in Busch Stadium, there's going to be 40,000 people watching it. So without that ticket revenue, the finances were kind of weird. So Colton Wong did have to let him walk. So he signed a 2-year deal with Milwaukee. I think that's a good pickup for them. But like I said, the outside of Locaine and Yelich, I don't really know a whole lot about anybody else that they have really. So I think, like I said, there's a gap, and then St. Louis just to me feels like the team to beat in the division. The one glaring weakness is the outfield.
I was just about to say that. I mean, Harrison Bader is probably your best name in the outfield.
Yeah, he's certainly the name that has the most experience, and he it looks like he's going to start the year on the IL with a little bit of a forearm issue, so might have to do some finagling. Dylan Carlson can play center field very well. He was slotted to play right just because that was the spot that was open. So guys like Tyler O'Neill, guys like Austin Dean, it's a lot of role play type guys. Justin Williams is a young kid. Lane Thomas. It's just a lot of role player type guys that are going to be counted on to really step up and perform in the outfield, because the infield is.
I mean, that's where the bats are in the infield.
Is stacked. Around the horn, Goldschmidt, Tommy Edman, Paul DeYoung, and Nolan Arenado. Those guys are probably going to hit 1, 3, 4, and 5. I mean, you probably will slide Carlson in it too, but that's where your offensive production is coming from, is your infield and Yadier Molina.
And if there's one thing about the Cardinals, I never have to doubt they're going to have good pitching.
They're going to have good pitching
like death taxes and Cardinals having good pitching.
Yep. And I think what's underrated about the Cardinals pitching is the way that Yachty handles them. He is the best baseball player I've ever seen at handling a pitching staff that sometimes can be piecemealed together, sometimes has star quality guys. We have a little bit of both this year. Jack Flaherty is a star in the making, if he's not already there.
Has he won a Cy Young?
He hasn't yet. He very easily could. Was, I believe, second in the Rookie of the Year voting, which is tough to do as a pitcher.
He's a stud, and then I know there are others too. I can't think of them off the top of my head.
Miles Michaelis, right, is 39, but is going to give you innings and compete.
Yeah, but he's in a position where he's the third or fourth guy.
He doesn't have to be. Yeah, he doesn't have to be 2012 or 2013, 2014 Wainwright anymore. he has what he's become is the Yadier Molina of the pitching staff. He is the mentor. He is the sounding board for all of these young guys, especially guys that we have in the bullpen, that can really soak up all the knowledge that he has. So Wayno at 4, a guy named KK Kwan Young Kim. I don't know how to pronounce it. He's a Korean guy. Had a great year for us last year in his first year. Looking to build off of that, and then in the bullpen,
Andrew Miller, like that's all you got to say.
Andrew Miller's still there. He's there. The absolute hardest thrower in the league is coming off of Tommy John and sitting out last year since he is a diabetic. Jordan Hicks throws the ball 105 miles an hour, and it will move 2 feet.
I thought he was a starter
because he throws it as a two-seamer. No, he came into the league as our closer.
I'm going to have to probably rewrite. I thought he was a starter.
Has now sat out about a year and a half with Tommy John, and then sitting out last year. Giovanni Gallegos is very, very solid arm. Daniel Ponce de Leon is like a fringe starter guy that I think is really primed to take a big step forward and really show what he can do. There's just guys up and down the bullpen. A guy named Alex Reyes, who for years has been the top pitching prospect and is just waiting for a year to break through. And then a bunch of young guys, Zach Thompson, Matthew Liberator. I'm probably forgetting a bunch. John Gant has been the face of Cardinal Twitter for whatever reason for like the last 3 months. It's been kind of weird, but who knows? So I think putting that all together, if we can get production from the outfield, I don't think there's a team in the division that can beat us. Of course, I said that last year, and the Cubs put something together and won the division. We made the
like
playoffs.
Anything, blame it on COVID. Yeah, it was a weird year.
Weird year. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I have a lot of opinions about the Cardinals and a lot of expectations for the Cardinals because of what we did in the offseason. So I think they can win 93, 94,
That's
95 games.
I think the winner of this division, which I too think will be the St. Louis Cardinals, wins about 93, 94, maybe 95 games, gets the 3 seed in the NL, probably meets the Dodgers or Padres in the NLCS.
I could totally see that. Probably plays Atlanta in the DS. Yep. With the Dodgers and the Padres, whoever comes out of that, duking it out in a wild DS series. But yeah, I mean, I just don't see a way where any other team can really push the Cardinals. I think they probably win it pretty comfortably. I think they probably win it by 6 or 7 games.
Yeah. I have no problem with agreeing with that. I just don't think another team is on their level right now.
I really don't either.
So, NL wildcards, we might have the same. We're definitely going to have one in common.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be different from.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. But we're going to have one team from one division at least in common.
So you'll have the Padres and I'll have the Dodgers.
Yeah.
As the first wild card. I'll let you go first. Who do you have at 5?
So, like we were saying earlier, it's kind of flipped. I thought, a few years ago, I thought the NL was deep, AL was top heavy. Now I think it's flipped. And the AL is deep, the NL is pretty top heavy. But I think that 5th seed, I like what they did in the offseason. I'm going to go New York Mets. I feel pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah, that was probably my pick too. That's definitely. I should say that's definitely my pick too. I just don't think, like you said, it's so the NL. The paradigm has shifted. The NL is so top heavy now. Dodgers, Padres in the West, Cardinals really by themselves in the Central, Mets, Braves in the East, and then there's teams on the outside, Phillies and Nationals and Brewers and Cubs and Diamondbacks, really, and that's really kind of it. But I don't really see any of those teams kind of on the cusp being able to put together a season that's good enough to push the Mets and whomever finishes in the second.
I think
second
the
West.
Mets will give the Braves a run for their money in the NL East.
I think every team that makes the playoffs in the National League could very easily probably win 89 or 90 games.
Yeah.
And
I think I had the Mets winning about 90. I think I said 90 or maybe 92 and 70, somewhere in that range.
I could totally see division winners, Atlanta winning 96, and St. Louis winning 94, 95. The West winner winning 102, 103, and then the second place teams in the East and the West, probably the Mets and probably either the Dodgers or the Padres, being like a 90, being in the 90s. I mean, the West.
I had the Dodgers. I don't feel good about it, but I said 120 for the Dodgers. And again, my pick is for them to beat the single season win record, so I said 120. I think the Braves were about 96. Cardinals were about 94. Then I think the Padres I had about 100, 101, 102. And then I think I had the Mets at 90 or 92.
Yeah, that's totally plausible, and it's really different from, like I said, from the AL, where you're looking at teams for the wild card that may be a couple of games, 4, 5, 6 games over 500, whereas in the NL you're looking at teams that may win 93, 94 games. And then other than that, there's just not a whole lot of teams that I see that can compete.
Back to the Mets. This is different from the team that made the World Series, where they had a lot of pitching and really just hit the ball well enough after they got Cespedes.
They're real timely, really.
But this, and it's been a few years building. Really, last 1 or 2 years, they've been hitting the ball really well.
Mm-hmm.
Alonso can hit. Conforto can hit. Nimmo can, decent leadoff hitter, can hit occasionally. Then you got Jeff McNeil can hit. JD Davis can hit. This was already a pretty real lineup, as I would say. Then you had Lindor. You had McCann. They tried to get Springer. It didn't work out. But even with Lindor, this is a top to bottom pretty good lineup.
Pretty good. Has a potential to be a great lineup.
Yeah. And then you factor in DeGrom,
exactly.
Stroman, Carrasco, and then we know what Syndergaard can do when he's healthy. That's been an issue of late, but even if he's not, he's still probably the fourth guy in that rotation.
Yeah, I think the Mets, if anything can let them down, it would be the bullpen.
Yeah, but even Edwin Diaz played well. Uris Familia's played well sometimes. They got some guys in that bullpen that can play well.
I know at some point Mets fans kind of want to throw Edwin Diaz off the Empire State Building, but
he played well. I know he got off to a rough start in 2019.
Yeah.
But last year he played well. I was shocked, honestly, by his numbers. He had a pretty good ERA. He was good last year.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the thing is, it's not that their bullpen is bad per se.
No, but it would definitely slow them down.
It's certainly the weak link of that team, especially with the additions that they've made and the solidifications that they've made to the lineup and the rotation. The bullpen is pretty obviously the weakest link of the three. Like I said, not by any means not a bad bullpen, not a unreliable or unproven bullpen. Just the starters are so good and the lineup has been put together so well that. So
I'm not sure it's really going to matter until like playoff time.
No, it really doesn't, and that's kind of the issue the biggest issue that I have with New York, with the Mets is what will happen when it's the bottom of the sixth, the bottom of the seventh, or the eighth, and they've got to roll out Familia or Diaz for a multi-inning save.
Yeah.
And he's got to throw to Acuna, Albies, Freeman, and Ozuna, or Edman and Carlson, or Arenado and Goldschmidt, or God forbid if they roll him out and he throws against Bellinger, Muncy.
No, for
Betts,
sure. Yeah, for sure.
Turner.
No, I don't see this team. They might win the wild card game. I don't see them getting any farther than the NLDS.
No, I think there's just so much talent. I don't see them making it out of the wild card game because whoever is in second in the West is just going to be such a powerhouse, and they just by circumstance of the format is just going to eat up whoever they have to play in a wild card game, and then move on and play almost more than likely the winner of the division. So I mean, just like I said, just by circumstance of format, the Mets kind of draw the short stick there, and have to run into a buzzsaw in a wild card game. But certainly doesn't diminish what they've done and what they're kind of and it's a bit of a build. I mean, it's not.
I was just about to say, I think it's just getting started with Steve Cohen as owner.
Yeah, and I think Cohen makes a huge difference because, like we talked about last time, he's not here to make money. He's got enough money for a million lifetimes. What he's here to do is to win, and that's not a mindset that a lot of pro sports owners have. So I think like you said, he's just getting started, and they already had a good product. He's made it a borderline great product already, and we'll just have to see how things gel on the field.
I saw. So he had a little bit of a PR problem a few weeks ago. He deleted his Twitter because he got caught up in, I don't want to say a Ponzi scheme, but it was something.
He was
like
caught
that.
up in Robin Hood stuff, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
Wasn't he caught up in the Robin Hood stuff? Because he might be the money for one of those hedge funds or something.
Regardless, I think he was losing money. And it was something like, I don't know how much money. And someone said, like, that's like barely going to make a dent in his net worth. And it made me think of that scene in Silicon Valley where Russ Hanneman is like, they come to his house and he's distraught. Looks like he's been on a bender for weeks. The house is a mess. He's in a bathrobe and he says, like, I got involved in a scheme or a scam and I lost $200 million. And they're like, holy shit, man. And then they start thinking about it and they're like, wait a minute. Aren't you worth $1.1 billion? And he's like, yeah, but I'm not a billionaire anymore.
Now I'm only worth 980.
Yeah, I'm not a 3-column guy anymore or whatever he says.
I remember
and that's what it made me think of when I saw that. So do you want to go into the postseason here? Do you want to go round by round or just give World Series?
It's up to you. We can do quickly round by round. I think it's going to be pretty easy.
Let's go and fuck it. Let's do round by round. I got nothing going on. So AL wildcard, you had, I believe, Tampa and Minnesota.
Tampa and Minnesota. Yeah, I did have Tampa and Minnesota. I'll go Tampa there. They're the team du jour in terms of postseason success right now. So yeah, I'll go Tampa there, even without Snell. You probably throw Tyler Glasnow in that game.
I think Tampa is going to take a step back.
I think he's better.
And it's a weird team to pick against because I really respect them. But you lose some good arms. I don't know. Lose kind of a heartbreaker against Goliath in the World Series. Yeah, I think that only went about 6 games, but still.
Yeah.
And they have a great manager, but it's just going to be tough. I think I had Minnesota and Toronto. I think this is where Toronto's road ends. I'll go Minnesota. I really like Minnesota. They got enough talent to move on. So let's flip over to the NL. You had Dodgers and Mets. I assume you're going to go Dodgers.
Yeah, you have to go Dodgers here. I mean,
so
no matter if they decide they want to throw a game in that game, they've got too much talent.
Yeah. So then I had Padres and Mets, which I think would be more competitive, but I would still lean Padres in that matchup.
Yeah, and Padres, they have the same problem as the Dodgers would have, and really, it would probably depend on whose turn in the rotation it is who's able to throw. But you got to think they probably throw Darvish or Snell in that game, and if the Mets have the ability to throw DeGrom, they throw DeGrom, and it's a pitcher's duel. I just slight edge to the Padres with a little bit of a better lineup and a little bit of a better bullpen. So
yeah. So we're in complete agreement there. All right, so divisional series AL. You have. Well, we didn't really say in the AL. Who was your top team in the AL? I assume the Yankees.
Yeah. We'll go like Yankees, A's, White Sox.
Okay, so Yankees and Rays in the divisional round.
Yeah, I think you got to go Yankees here. DJ LeMahieu.
If the Yankees were healthier, I think they gave the Rays a run for their money last year, but they weren't.
Right.
Severino's healthy. They added Kluber. The injury bug can't keep hitting the Yankees. I say that about a lot of teams, but eventually it's gonna happen. Like the injury bug's gonna stay
eventually
away.
They're going to be healthy,
yeah.
and Judge and Stanton and DJ LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres, Luke Voigt, who has kind of stormed onto the scene.
Do you watch? I forget, Sunday Conversations with Caleb Presley on Barstool?
No, I don't.
He does a segment. I don't know if he does it anymore. He really did it during football season because they have that Sunday gambling show. But he would do Sunday Conversations. It's always like it's clearly satirical interviews, but Caleb's so serious during the interview. It's like 60 minutes, but he asks the dumbest questions. One of the guests he had on was Luke Voigt, and he said, I remember him saying something like, I want to run by some catch phrases by you and see if one sticks. And he said, all right. And he goes through and like, work hard, play hard. And Luke Voigt's like, yeah, I'd abide by that. And he keeps going through them. I can't remember what all they were. And the last one, though, said, pull out game strong. And Luke Voigt said, I can't say that I abide by that. And Caleb Presley looked at him and said, because your wife's pregnant. And he said, yes, we did just get pregnant.
Luke Voigt, another St. Louis kid.
I thought that was fucking hilarious, though. He had another one on with Morgan Wallen, and he said, is Tennessee wide or is Tennessee long? And Wallen said, I think it's wide. And Caleb Presley said, so you like big girls?
Well, I mean, he did get called in Tuscaloosa, so he might like cows.
All right, so moving on. The other ALDS matchup you have Oakland and Chicago, vice versa. I don't know who you have as 2-3. Doesn't really matter, but
yeah, whoever. This is a tough one. Like I've always said, I really respect and appreciate the way that Oakland plays the game, the way that they're
You've said it, though. Like Minnesota, you can't really trust them in the playoffs.
Trust them in the playoffs. So here, I think Chicago wins this series. I think they're primed for a semi run in the postseason. So yeah, give me Chicago. That series will probably go 4 or 5. Be a competitive series, but at the end of the day, all that young talent. Eloy Jimenez will probably be healthy by then, and then Robert and Anderson and Abreu, all those guys. Giolito out front, just too much talent for Oakland. So give me Chicago in 4 or 5.
So I didn't give my pick. So I had Minnesota and the Yankees. I got to go Yankees, like we said. Minnesota's just a hard team to trust in the playoffs, no matter how good they are. Got to go Yankees. They got more talent. So the other matchup, I have Houston and Chicago.
That's tough.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I'm really not that crazy about picking Houston to win their division to begin with. I'm going to follow your lead. I'm going to go Chicago. I'm really a fan of the White Sox right now. So NLDS, you have Padres. We both have Padres, Dodgers, and vice versa roles.
Yeah. this has the potential to be the most watched postseason series.
It's a shame. In a perfect world, this should be the NLCS.
Absolutely, this would be a great 7-game series. Yep. It's a shame that it only has the ability to go 5. I think it will go 5. Man, I'll pick the Dodgers because
it's a shame. I really like the Padres. I genuinely think they can compete in a 7-game series, but then you knock it down to 5. It's just harder to get it done.
Yeah, I do too. And the reason that I will pick the Dodgers is because a lot of wild card teams in the wild card game era have then gone on to win their division series because they're still hot. They didn't take 5-6 days off like the teams that went into the division series do. They have to stay hot and play that wild card game and play a do or die, a game 7. And then so I like picking teams that have the ability and the opportunity to play that game, stay hot, and then move on into a division series and play a team that has sat for 3, 4, 5 days.
Yeah.
So give me Los Angeles in the most entertaining and watched 5-game series in baseball history.
So I also have Dodgers, Padres, but Padres are my wild card. I just have a hard time picking against the Dodgers. I mean, it's only a 5-game series. The Dodgers in their first 3 games are going to put out Kershaw, Buehler, and Bauer. Worst case, you probably go 2 out of 3 there. Then you only need 1 more, and they certainly have the lineup to overcome their weak pitching later in the starting rotation.
Game 4, probably throw out, depending on who's had the better year, Dustin May or David Price or
I forgot about David Price.
Arias. I mean, it's just silly.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's an uphill battle for the Padres. It's unfortunate. They're in the NL. I almost want to petition them to be in the AL because I think they'd be the 1 seed in the AL.
Yeah, definitely. I think they would. I think they win more games than the Yankees. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the other matchup, I think we both had Braves and Cardinals.
I
already know who you're going to go with.
Yeah, I think, and I'm picking the Cardinals because I think that they. So I'm kind of going back on what I said in our division predictions. I think the Cardinals will have home field advantage. If the Braves have home field advantage, I think the Braves may win it. But for right now, I'll go with the Cardinals. This is another really, really a series that would be really, really competitive and intense. It very much has the ability to go 5 games like our series back in 2019 did. I trust the Cardinals bullpen a little bit more. Obviously, the arms and the lineups match up pretty well. Atlanta is a little bit younger, but and then St. Louis has some more veteran, established guys. Certainly not to say that the Braves young guys aren't established by now, but I'll go St. Louis in 5. A very, very entertaining series that fortunately will be overshadowed by the Dodgers-Padres series.
I'll tell you what, my friend, you may have talked me out of that. I originally was going to go Braves without hesitation, but I think you talked me out of it. The Cardinals do match up pretty well with them.
It's really not a bad pick. I think, contrary to the AL,
and pitching always carries you. I feel like if you're going to pick a team in the playoffs, it's usually who has the better pitching. Almost all the time.
Any team that makes the playoffs of these 5 in the National League could win the World Series. I don't think you can say that about the American League.
No.
But I think any team that makes the playoffs, if these 5 teams,
I think definitely 4. The Mets would have to be really hot.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'll give you that. but definitely the top four. The Mets kind of as a fringe. I just don't think you can say that about the American League. But in the National League, I think really it will come down to whatever team is hottest. That makes a difference in baseball, kind of like in hockey. That it's not necessarily always the most talented team and the most the team that matches up the best. It's the team that is playing better ball at that time that wins a lot. The Nationals did it. The Astros did it. The Cardinals have done it a couple of times in our lifetime. It's that matters in postseason baseball, and I really do think that in the National League especially, it won't. While there's talent all over all 4 or 5 of these teams, it'll really depend on what team is hottest going into the postseason.
But I think you make a good point. I think St. Louis does match up with Atlanta. And when it comes to pitching, which I usually lean, who has the better pitching when picking matchups in the postseason, I lean St. Louis. Not that Atlanta has bad pitching. I just think they're young and kind of inexperienced. When your top guy is Charlie Morton, and I like Charlie Morton. He's a good pitcher, but that's not good enough,
Yeah, rolling out a top 3 of probably Morton, Fried, and Fulton Nevitz, maybe Seth Newcomb.
I thought Fulton Nevitz wasn't in Atlanta anymore.
Did he leave?
I thought they released him.
He may have gone to the Angels. That's for some reason he's
with the Rangers. Yeah.
No. Okay. So not the Braves anymore.
No, but they have a young guy.
Okay, that's who I'm missing.
That's not who I'm thinking of. Is it Sarasota? Something like that? Not Sarasota. I don't think that's right. It's another young pitcher, though.
Newcomb.
Sirota.
Did Cole Hamels go to Atlanta this offseason?
I don't think so.
Am I making that up?
I don't think he did. I think he did last year.
Last year, that's right. That's right.
Where can I find the fucking lineup? I'm on the Wikipedia. There we go. Okay. Soroka, Mike Soroka, young guy.
Soroka, yeah.
He's only 23. Pretty good ERA. Just a young guy. Like I said, Atlanta's pitching is going to hold them back. Not that it's bad. It's just young and inexperienced. And I just trust the Cardinals pitching more in the postseason than I do the Braves.
Yeah. Like I said, it's going to be an entertaining series. And it may be the bias or homer coming out of me, but I just see the Braves or the Cardinals just have just ever so slight an edge. So yeah, Cardinals and Dodgers in the CS.
Hang on, I'm on the phone.
Very good.
All right.
I really do think.
All right, so ALCS, we have the same teams: Yankees, White Sox. I think we're gonna probably have the same pick here, but I'm curious who you got.
Yeah, I think you have to go Yankees here.
Ah, come on! I was hoping you'd be bold. One of us would be bold.
I so badly want to pick Chicago because I love Tony La Russa so much, and I do really think that.
Here's what I'll say about this matchup. I think the Yankees win. But the talking point after the series is over is, wow, the White Sox are going to be good. They're just young. I think that's going to be like the Yankees were just primed to do it. They were just in a better position. But wow, do the White Sox have a bright future? I think that's what everyone's going to be talking about after the series is over.
I totally agree with you. I think guys like Robert, Tim Anderson really.
I sure hope we're pronouncing his name right.
We say it so damn much.
Because I think that sounds so much better than Robert. With a name like Luis, it's got to be Robert.
Yeah. But the Yankees just have just ever so slight an edge on the mound in both starting rotation and the bullpen. I think that pushes them over the top. In a really entertaining series, like you said, I think that, the talking point being that Chicago's for real.
Yeah, like I would say like in 6 games, but
6.
4 of the games were decided late.
It's a real competitive game. Yeah. I can totally see that.
NLCS, we both have Dodgers and Cardinals.
You go first.
That means I know you're gonna pick them. You're such a fucking homer. Come on, I picked the Dodgers to win 120 games. There's no way I'm picking them to lose the NLCS. I gotta go Dodgers.
I know. And it's dumb. Like it's absolutely
come on
to pick the Dodgers. I just think the Cardinals did so much in the offseason to solidify everything that they need. I think that the outfield gels together. I think Tyler O'Neill has a monster season. I think Harrison Bader really picks up because he knows that he's going to be the center fielder. He knows he's playing center field basically every day. Dylan Carlson knows he's going to play right field every day. He's going to get the at-bats that he needs. And we know what we're going to get from Goldschmidt. We know what we're going to get from Arenado. We know what we're going to get from Paul DeYoung. Tommy Edman is a slight question mark, but he has been a very productive leadoff hitter. We know what we're going to get from Yachty. We know what we're going to get from the starting rotation. We know what we're going to get from the bullpen. And for whatever reason, the Cardinals have the Dodgers number in the postseason. Dodgers cannot beat the Cardinals in the postseason. I think the Cardinals win in 6.
You're such a homer.
I think Buehler wins game 1 against
Look, I'm not saying it can't happen. The Cardinals have...
Or in St. Louis,
the Cardinals have what it takes. I think they'd have to be super hot to knock off the Dodgers.
That's fine. I totally think that's valid. Call me a homer, call me an idiot.
But if we were sitting here talking NFL football and I picked the Green Bay Packers to win the Super Bowl, you'd say the same exact thing.
No,
Even though I think I would have some decently valid points.
You would have valid points, but I'd be all over you for picking the Packers.
Though, I'll tell you right now, depending on how the draft goes, I'm not picking Green Bay to win the Super Bowl. So World Series, we have different matchups. Sorry. No, I did give my pick. Dodgers. So different matchups. You have Yankees, Cardinals. A matchup, I'd vomit if this was the matchup. I guess I'd have to cheer for the Cardinals because I hate the Yankees more than anyone else in baseball. But it would make me sick.
That's like your...
And even then, like my pick, Yankees-Dodgers, would still make me sick. But I'd feel better about that matchup than Yankees-Cardinals.
Yeah. That's your... you would feel the way that I felt the day that Alabama and Georgia played for the national championship in football.
Yeah, probably.
Just end it right now. I am the most miserable person on planet Earth.
You had to have been cheering for Oklahoma so hard in that Rose Bowl against Georgia. Because you knew Alabama was likely going to beat Clemson later that day in the Sugar Bowl. So you had to have been like, I cannot have Georgia and Alabama in the national championship. Come on, Boomer Sooner.
It was, and that was 2017. We won the SEC West.
Yeah. Played in the SEC championship.
I played in the SEC championship with a hurt Kerryon Johnson because
beat
Alabama,
Bama like pretty handily in the Iron Bowl too.
Injured Kerryon Johnson, and the week before, we just didn't have the gas to finish it off.
That was a weird year.
Absolutely the most miserable I've ever been on a sporting day, whatever that day was. Shane, the Cardinals are winning the World Series. If I've come this far, I'm not. You can't expect me not to finish it off. The St. Louis Cardinals are winning the World Series in 5 games.
Wait, hang on a second. You said in 5 games?
5 games.
That's bold, my friend.
I'll give you something even bolder. World Series MVP.
Go ahead.
Tommy Edman.
Second baseman, starting second baseman.
Starting second baseman, leadoff hitter. Tommy Edman.
A part of me likes it. You're not going chalk. I'm going chalk. I'm going Dodgers. But you know how highly I think of the Dodgers. I mean, we've been over this. I could talk to him blue in the face about how good the Dodgers are. I mean, just
3 years now, it feels like, yeah.
And they got better. So I just...
Again, they got better again.
Yeah, again. It's just hard to pick against them. You never know. I will admit, you never really know, especially in a sport like baseball where it's so fickle. You know, just you might just be a tad late on a pitch. You know, just tad late reading a ball, or release your pitch just a hair too late or too early. It's just a weird sport. Timing's so crucial. And defending champions usually don't do as well the following year. Not all the time, but like I remember the Astros won the World Series in 2017, and I think made the playoffs in 2018. But you never got a sense they were quite as good. They never quite had that magic that they did in 2017. Granted, they cheated, but still. So the same thing could happen with the Dodgers. You might watch them. Yeah, they might win over 100 games and be really good, win the division and win the NL. But it still might be, I'm not sure they're quite as good as they were in 2020. You never know. And how good seems stupid to say, but are the Dodgers really that good? It was a COVID year. Who the hell knows? You know what I mean?
We've been saying it all night. Last year, you almost can't look at what happened last year because it was so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, the Marlins made the damn playoffs.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Dodgers. I don't like doing it, but it's like picking against the Golden State Warriors when they were at the top of the league.
Yeah, it's like picking like the Warriors, like the Patriots, it seems like chalk, but it's chalk because it's.
And when was the last time a team won back-to-back World Series? Was it the Yankees when they had their run in the late 90s, early 2000s?
The century, yeah. They won 3 in a row, 98, 99, and 2000.
So it's been 20 years. I mean, football has had a more recent defending champion winning 2 years in a row. In a sport that's probably even more of a team sport than baseball. I'm not sure I'd agree with that, but it's up there.
Was it the Patriots? 02, 03?
04, 05, I believe.
05?
Or 03, 04, 04, 05.
Where?
Those 2 years. So, yeah, it's just weird to pick a defending champion in baseball. It hasn't happened in 20 years. But if any team's going to do it, it's the Dodgers. I promise you.
Yeah, the weird thing is, you say, there hasn't been a defending champion in baseball in 20 years. But on the flip side, the Red Sox have won 4 World Series since 2004. The Cardinals have won 2 World Series since 2006. The Astros have played in 3 World Series. The Dodgers have played in a bunch of World Series. The Phillies have played in a couple World Series back in the late aughts. The Rays have played. It's really not all that topsy-turvy. I mean, there was the Giants have won 3 World Series. The Tigers have played for 3 or 4. The Rangers have played for 2.
Yeah, the Tigers have played for what, 2? I think it's just 2.
I believe they played for. No, the Rangers played for 2 in a row.
Rangers played for 2 in a row. Yeah, 10 and
2 and 11, and lost them both. So it's really.
That's a shame. I really like those teams.
The Cardinals beat them in 11, so I was not unhappy.
No,
about that.
I love Josh Hamilton. Comeback story of the year, or not even the year, ever, almost.
If you really think about it, Yankees, Red Sox, Rays to an extent,
and I think I picked Yankees, Dodgers last year. I think eventually the Yankees are going to get there. It's almost like LeBron during his years when he didn't win a title. You rooted against it just because you wanted to see it keep going. But eventually, you knew it was going to happen. Like the Yankees. Eventually, the Yankees are going to get there. They're just too talented.
I agree, and they have just so much in terms of resources, and really, in more than in any sport, resources and marketability really matter in baseball, because you won't see teams like Kansas City and teams like Seattle and Oakland, Arizona, Colorado. Those teams can't compete in terms of being able to pay players the way that teams in LA, teams in Chicago, teams in New York, teams in
baseball's got to change.
Massive.
There's got to be a salary cap and equal distribution in baseball, I think.
I'm kind of on the fence about that because...
Come on, I don't want to see the Yankees with a $300 million payroll when a team like the Pirates doesn't even have $100 million to spend.
And like the Yankees and the Dodgers combined having a bigger payroll than all other 30 teams.
There's not parity. The NFL, there's parity. There's not in basketball, but that's for different reasons. There's a lot of parity in hockey and football. Those are huge team sports with a hard salary cap. The NBA doesn't. That's why it's in the shape it's in. Baseball has a salary cap, but it's a very weak one. And then, like I said, it's a high one to a point where only a select few teams can even make that high of a payroll.
Yeah, and then if they happen to go over it, they have more than enough resources to pay the luxury tax or whatever they call it. So they don't really care about going over that soft cap because what's $10-15 million?
I did a paper on this in grad school. I forget what the paper was even about. It was something about parity in sports, and I wrote about baseball. Just complaining about that right there. I was like, only Yankees, Dodgers, probably Cubs, Cardinals maybe, and the Astros can get to $200 million. And I don't even think really the Cardinals can.
Cardinals really can't. We're a lot more small market than a lot of people think. Our payroll's
probably they can splurge if they really wanted to.
130, 150 range. I mean, it's not. It's certainly bigger than Minnesota, Kansas City, Miami.
That's why I think it's just such a shame. I don't know. It's borderline. I don't want to say it's borderline socialism, but you want more competition in sports.
Yeah.
But I want to see like the Orioles have as much of a shot because these small market teams in baseball, they might like the Royals put it together for about 2 years. They went to back-to-back World Series, won one of them, lost one in a heartbreaker.
Yeah, played in 2 World Series, I believe. 14 and 15 got beat by the Dodgers in 14 and beat the Mets in 15. Right?
Giants. That was then the Giants' dynasty, but then beat the Mets.
Yeah.
Then all the guys basically left town. I think the only one that's still there is Salvador Perez, who just signed the big extension. Then now it's been almost we're approaching a decade of the Royals trying to piece it together because you might have a small window to win, and it rarely happens that team wins at all. Then you got to strip it down, and then you're rebuilding for another decade. And I don't see the Royals getting to that point for maybe another decade. I don't know how their farm system looks, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally do. They're a weird example because they have top line talent, but very little of it. Whit Merrifield is a great baseball player. I think he is so undervalued and underappreciated because of what he can do. And they've got a guy that came out of Florida who's named Brady Singer is his name. He was a starting pitcher at Florida. I want to say they took him number 1 or number 2 overall, and he's about to bust into the majors in what feels like a pretty big way, kind of along the same lines of Casey Mize in Detroit. And and the Royals did it perfectly. They were so bad for so long, and built from within. Alcides Escobar, Salvador Perez, Mike Moustakas, Eric Hosmer, Gerard Dyson in a role, a specified role. All of these guys that had played together for so long, and then they had before really this was a thing. They were just bringing absolute gas out of the bullpen. Everybody they threw out from both sides of the rubber was throwing 98 to 100. And
yeah, that was one of the best bullpens I've seen assembled in a long time.
And people have kind of gone away from that now. But yeah, you're right. These teams work for so long. The Cubs, like I said, the Cubs did it. The Astros did it. The Royals did it. In a way, the Giants did it, but they were a bit of a weird one because they had great teams in the 2000s with Bonds and Kent and all them. Kind of went away from it and then built back up and then had their run.
Man, that was a weird team. Just those 6 years roughly that team was together. How do you go from championship to not making the playoffs to championship to not making the playoffs to championship again to not making the playoffs? Then you made the playoffs again in 2016 and didn't get past the divisional round, but still, just up and down, up and down. And I got into an argument, or I shouldn't say an argument, a discussion with this with my friend James, who I regularly podcast with. And I said, would you rather, we're talking football, and I said, would you rather be Green Bay and be fairly consistently good, making playoffs just about every year, and not win a Super Bowl with a chance to win a Super Bowl? Or would you rather be Tampa Bay and suck for over a decade, get Tom Brady, and win a championship? I was like, at the end of the day, everyone's going to talk about championships. And he was really torn. He didn't know. He said, man, it's hard to not want to just be good every year with a chance to win.
Yeah, and that argument can be made. Cardinal fandom is the same way. There's always a chance. You always feel like you have a chance to win important games. The goal of every baseball team is to compete throughout the year, and then when it comes to September and October, give yourself an opportunity to win games that matter and mean something. And teams like that, teams like the Cardinals, teams like now the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Braves, the Mets are building. They're giving themselves by acquisitions and building. They're giving themselves the opportunities to do that, and I think baseball is moving back towards kind of an older school way of thinking in terms of building teams instead of in the 80s and 90s. It was, and George Steinbrenner, the president and owner of the Yankees, kind of was at the forefront of this, but it was buy anything you can, buy the best players you can. We're going to buy a championship. And that kind of continued into the 2000s with the Marlins is a great example. In 2003, they went out and bought Gary Sheffield and Mike Lowell and
Miguel Cabrera. I think he was 18 years old when he won that.
18 or 19 that year. Yeah. You think of guys like that Arizona team in 2001 went out and bought Schilling and Johnson, Luis Gonzalez, Tony Womack.